I'm going to try this topic again. I went live last night. Ended up going way longer than I thought it would. And the topic of the video is how everybody's full of crap. Pretty much everybody's full of crap when it comes to family court. The lawyers, the judges, the guardian litems, the clerks of the courthouse. Family court is totally and utterly dysfunctional. So who are you going to listen to? Who are you going to trust? Who are you going to pay attention to at all? I say, well, this is what I always say. Why don't you pay attention to people who actually won and actually have proof that they won? Why do you listen to people who don't tell you what they've actually done, what they've actually won? They don't show you any proof that they know what they're talking about. You know, I guess you could say that it's a brag, but I talk about how you know, I show you guys my winning court orders. I show you that I actually won and actually got my kid in real life. When I was doing the live last night, there was a guy in there talking about all this legal mumbo jumbo and jurisdiction and the courts aren't real courts and all the same old stuff that and he was dealing with. He was one of those child support is fraud type of guys. I'm not here to talk about that stuff. I'm here to get people their kids. And if that ends up working out, then you really don't have to worry about child support. But the child support is fraud crowd, they don't help you with custody and getting your kid. All they know is an administrative side of child support, which is unconstitutional. The guy that was on there, he was talking about how now the page who's telling everybody to go to, it looks like the guy who's talking on there talks about real stuff, and he's gotten people to remove their liens and back child support and things like that. But again, we're dealing with administrative orders of child support. Let's say you get your child support knocked off. Well, the mother just go to family court and get full custody and then put you on child support. They don't have a full answer. That's why those child support is fraud guys, you know, people who talk about the courts don't have any jurisdiction. People who talk all that treaties of the Moors and all that stuff. Yeah, some of the stuff they say is true, but in reality, are they getting people their kids? Not that I know of. So that being said, and last night when I did this, I think I was started at like 2 a.m. So I had a long day. My sleep is off and jacked up. I'm behind on helping people out with a few different things and projects. So I got my first meal of the day here. So I'm just pausing while I got a break to just gather and catch up. Some people might be watching this and I owe them some work product too. But in any case, everybody's full of crap. That's why you got to be cautious with what you're spending your money on and who you're talking to. I would never, I mean, some of this stuff was so common sense, it's ridiculous. When I started my court case, it was common sense to me that I should get equal 50-50 custody. I didn't even know the fad or the talk. And this is 2001. It's not much of it wasn't as much of a fad as it is now. But in 2001, you know, people were still saying, they just weren't saying it in mass everywhere about, you know, people weren't saying 50-50 custody a lot, but I thought I should be sharing my kid equally with my baby's mom. That was just common sense. So when lawyers told me you're not going to get that, I thought they were nuts. So I didn't give any lawyers like that the time of day. Why? Because I had some common sense and I followed my conscience, and somebody tells me some bull crap that you can't live your life like this and it doesn't make any damn sense. I'm not talking to them, or I'm getting a second opinion. Some of you guys are such sheep. You just listen to the first quote unquote professional that tells you anything that sounds good, or they got a suit and tie and work at a high-rise building in downtown metropolis, whatever. You just take it hook, line, and sinker, and you'll get. Oh, I'm sitting there being a slob. Take a hook, line, and sinker, and you'll give them all your money. I wasn't really thinking when I first was looking for lawyers. This is 2001, beginning of my custody case. I wasn't looking for. I really didn't have any expectations. All I knew is I got blindsided. My baby's mom was trying to get an anti-harassment restraining order against me because we were arguing over my right to see my kid. Risky business says F lawyers, they're worthless. True. Now, every once in a while, I come across somebody whose lawyer did their job or got on the offensive. And sometimes I don't know all the details. Maybe the mother gave in or gave up quickly or whatever. In 24 years of dealing with this, there's 4 lawyers that I liked in the Washington area. And that covers any lawyers that I like, period. Those lawyers that I'm talking about, they worked with me. One of them I had on my case for a period of time. Because when I went to back to court for a modification, the mother objected to me relocating. I got a lawyer because I was scared to go to trial. You know, the first time around, we settled on a custody battle after I beat the snot out of the mother over and over and over again. Then I beat the snot out of her over and over again in the modification case, which lasted 1.5 years. So, let's see, we spent a couple months on child support, 3 months. Now it's 10 months. Then 1.5 years. So the first 3 years of my daughter's life, we spent about 3/4 of her life in court. So, I got some lawyers that I found to be, well, that lawyer was aggressive and he's willing to fight my baby's mom's attorney in the hallway. He's an ex-Marine. He didn't play that intimidation bullcrap stuff. Then I later worked with him and I referred him to cases that I did paperwork for people, and he was a limited appearance attorney, so we kind of tag team and worked and helped out different folks in cases. And so that was one guy that I liked, and I just come across so many cases. People had attorneys, and a few attorneys liked me, wanted to work with me. And one of the attorneys I really liked, she got suspended from the Bar Association because she stood up to a commissioner in court. And I found out about her because one of my clients was at court and said, James, this lawyer was out there chewing this commissioner out, and blah, 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 blah. You know, commissioner's like a magistrate, a friend of the court, a lower level judge. And she's out here chewing out a commissioner. And then they called the cops in there, but she was making an argument the commissioner was way off. And then she got suspended for committing blasphemy against a family court commissioner. And then I ended up fining her and telling people, maybe you should check out this lady. If you have to get an attorney, go with this lady, because she had the balls to stand up in there and do this and that. And then I ended up kind of collaborating and working with her. So anyway, outside of that, everybody's full of crap. You should be verifying with an attorney. What's your track record? How many times do you help the dad get full custody? Are you going to get on the offensive? Are you willing to do this, that? No. You got to be politically correct. You got to do this. You got to do that. If you're going to go to court and you're in a courthouse, everybody knows a courthouse is a place where you're supposed to learn the truth and justice is supposed to prevail. How the hell do you think you're going to go to family court and you're going to not talk about the abuse of the mother, the alienation and neglect? Especially now, I have a new, do I have my other phone? I have new, I didn't bring it. Link in my flow page in my must-see information section. There's this one, it's called Psychiatric News or Psychiatric Today. It says Psychiatric 40 on the cover and then on the thumb. And it's a medical doctor and a psychologist in a publication, in a reputable publication, Psychiatric News or whatever, psychiatric something. And then they have like about 6 references that they're basing their article on. They say that alienation, the epidemic of alienation, is on par with sexual and physical abuse. So nobody in their right mind would say, don't bring up child molestation in court. Nobody in their right mind would tell a man or a woman, a mother or a father, don't bring up physical child abuse in the other parent in court. That'll make you look bad. It's all the other intangible stuff. They're mentally ill. They're committing alienation. They're disparaging me. Well, now alienation is found to be, and I did a video on alienation on my YouTube channel. You guys should watch that. Go on my YouTube channel, click on the magnifying glass, type in alienation. There's a few videos on it, on alienation. One of them is, I show you a video from the Anti-Alienation Project, and in there they talk about Dr. Craig Childress. The lady talks about Dr. Craig Childress, and he's the first person I ever heard say that alienation is just as bad and traumatic as molestation and physical abuse. So, if we have evidence, scientific evidence about that, why would you not talk about it in court? And then I show you guys in my New York state links. I have links to different states and countries. One link that I have to Canada has 1 million articles about how children need fathers and they suffer without fathers. In my must-see information, I have a couple of scientific links about the needs for both parents or fathers. And then I have in New York, there's 3 New York links, and one of the links, see, I never had any of this stuff. When I talk about this stuff and I find out all the people who I send the link to, I have the link, they've seen my link, and they never study it, or they've been through it and they didn't absorb it. You should be memorizing all the free stuff that I have for you, because you should be attacking on every angle with the knowledge of everything that you could possibly know, if you care about your kids and if this is important to you to take the time. Even a guy I criticized, Steve Maeda. I did a video criticizing Steve Maeda because before he was like, you need an attorney, you need an attorney. Or if you represent yourself, you're stupid. 5 years later, after I criticized him a couple times, and then he started using the hashtag how I got custody. Maybe he got custody in the end. He said it took him like 7 or 12 years being out of court, and he finally prevailed. He got an attorney, he got his ass handed to him, and then he's telling people this is how you got to win in court, and he lost. That's why I'm telling you guys, everybody's full of shit. But even now, he had a video that I just came across. Right after I criticized him, I found this video, which sounds like maybe he's catching up. He said, when you're representing yourself, you can't just watch a 5-minute video and know everything. Just like you can't take a course for a whole semester and then not go to class and then just show up, or go to class and not pay attention or take notes or study anything and show up on the final exam and think you're going to get ace the test. Nobody in their right mind would say or think that. So people who slough off in college, they at least cram the night before or pull it all night or do something like that because they know they can't just waltz in and do well, or prepare for a job interview or prepare for a driving test. Everybody knows this. But for some reason, my gender is full of shit too. 99% of dads are full of shit. 10% of you are going to want to fight and get on the offensive and do something. You'll lose. If you lose 1 or 2 hearings like I did, then you'll quit. So only 10% of the 10%, 1% of you will actually stay in the fight until the end and fight the marathon out. 99% of litigants are full of shit. But back to the New York link, in the New York link, and I know I'm all over the place because every time I say something, I think of 1 million things in my head that you guys need to know and learn. And when stuff comes to my head, especially when I'm just sitting here blabbing on a free video where you're going to get more information than you probably get sitting with your own attorney, you don't got any room to complain. Oh, James, get to the point or stick to the point. If you're sitting here on here for free, and especially if you ask questions, I see I got comments and questions, I'm going to get to that stuff in a second here. I'm sitting here giving you free game. And then even after I do this, I get consults with people and they never looked at any of my stuff. What the hell are you doing? There's another guy in the live that I did last night that I didn't post on YouTube. Had a little technical difficulty. I probably went too far and blabbed too much or whatever. Another guy got on there and he was saying some points and he wasn't communicating clearly. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And then it took a while to get to the point. Then we were arguing about stuff. Then it looked like he was attacking alienation, say alienation is a tool and weapon, which is kind of how he said it. And later he said, well, alienation is I'm being the protect the parent and she's saying I'm alienating. She abandoned the child. I'm like, dude, why do you say that shit in the first place? You're the one who's totally lost or losing in court or got screwed on something. I can't remember what he got screwed on. I think maybe he still has custody and he got screwed on something. But he waited until like 45 minutes into the chat or whatever to actually ask this question. What the hell is wrong with my gender? What if you see somebody like me on here doing a live for free and you can ask a question, why the hell would you not get right to the point or right to the question? Because my gender is full of total F-tards or lazy bums or people who don't really want to fight for their kids and are scared to. You have to scratch and claw and fight and learn and exert blood, sweat, and tears to really fight for your kids. But that's too much. I shouldn't have to do that. Then you're a punk ass bitch who you don't love your kids because you'll talk shit all day long. Oh, I'll die for my kids. Again, people are full of shit. They love saying cliche stuff like that. You know what I've done most of my life? Even when I played sports, I played football, basketball. I was the only I kind of in a small town, only 3 high schools, but I was the only person who was all city first team in football and basketball. So I was a decent athlete. I played a year of college basketball at Seattle U, but that was back when they're NAIA, not Division I. But when I played sports and stuff, I just did my job and kept my mouth shut and, kept it moving and just let my play do the talk. That's the way that I am. And same thing in court. And when I've been to court, and it's kind of like in any kind of like superhero movie, whatever, Superman, or like even in The Lion King, like when the good guy is getting defeated or losing, everybody's laughing at them and jeering at them and doing all this crazy stuff, and it looks like they're defeated or they're dead. There's a crowd around them, and they end up, basically coming back from the dead or coming back from looking like they were down and out and getting the victory or fixing the problem or whatever. I was in court and there were 6 to 7 people laughing and jeering with me because when you're on the side of the bully and you're laughing and jeering, that's easy. All the people who were my enemies and still my enemies today, and I go on Facebook and I dox them and I show people declarations from people who were, with my community of friends and people that came to court with me. Nobody really came to court with me except one buddy of mine. But there's a lot of people who wrote declarations for me. My baby's mom and her sisters and her friends that they manipulated into believing some stupid stuff. I didn't even want to be with my baby's mom, and they're acting like she's running from me because I want to be with her. But our whole community was kind of centered around, we had all gone to University of Washington. We were part of this college campus church, and then a bunch of us lived together, lived kind of in the same neighborhood. There was some women from my church that had a single mother house, and the guys, we'd be around to help them out if they needed stuff. So we were just around each other all the time, and we do church related stuff. We would do hanging out, fellowships, get together, whatever, go to Seattle Mariners games, Sonic games, as a group, movies, Red Robin, hang out, go out to dinner, packed groups of us. We were just always around each other. And it turned out a couple of those people were total Judases. People who I had loved and cared about and thought and acted were like family, in my 20s, in becoming into adulthood, the relationships I built and people I trusted and served and did activities in our church for the community. And so there's one lady in my church. She went out and had a son with a married man. Went to a club, found a drunk dude who was married, slept with him just to get pregnant because her friend was pregnant and she was jealous of her friend. We had some really weirdos who came around to that church, but the church is supposed to be a hospital for sick folks. So, but Anyway, I felt bad for the kid. He was never going to know his dad, and his mom was raising him to be soft, and some of the guys kind of made fun of it. And the one guy who testified against me would call that little boy gay or a punk, and I thought it was cruel. He's 3, 4, 5 years old, and you're sitting here calling him a punk, and he's like, stop crying, stop. So I actually spent time with that kid. There's one day you could bring your kid to work, and so I invited him along, and that lady would beg me to spend time with him. So when it came time to go to court, she was friends with my baby's mom and the people over there. I'm getting to the point that you guys act like I had it easy. I had traitors, betrayers, Judases, and then I was outnumbered 5, 6, 7 to 1 in court. They're laughing and jeering at me, and I'm all by myself. This lady, I looked out for her kids sometimes, even when some of the guys in our little network of friends and even church and community, they were making fun of him, and they would make fun of me. Oh, you're going to hang out with your son today? Because the chick was so ugly that some of the guys couldn't believe that she actually was able to find somebody to get her pregnant. And so that was a running joke. Oh, James hang out with his son. It wasn't like, oh, you're being goofy and hanging out with this kid. It was like, oh, that's your son because that hideously ugly chick is the one you slept with to have, your kid. Anyway, when I went to that lady for a declaration, and I went knocking on her door. She actually lived at the single mother's house. And there was a controversy in our church, and everybody kind of scattered and did their own thing because the church kind of fell apart. And the mom's name was Liz, and her son's name was Jared. So I went to Liz's house. Everybody kind of parted ways, and then I had my custody battle, and it was kind of awkward because you didn't know who to trust who because there were some fakers and whatever. And then suddenly my baby's mom and her family are trying to keep the child from me. So I go to Liz's house, and then her mom answers the door. So I guess they took over that house. Everybody left, and they started renting the house. And I said, hey, is Liz home? And she's like, who are you? And I said, my name is James. I used to, take Jared a lot, and I was wondering if she'd be willing to write a statement for me about that. And then she goes, James Christensen? I never even met the lady. James Christensen? I'm like, yeah. She's not here, and slammed the door in my face. So somebody that I helped out with her own child wouldn't have been willing. Now, maybe her mother, the grandmother, ran interference or whatever. And then people like that, Liz didn't come to court, but she would have been a great witness to talk about that. I would have thought she would have been a neutral party. And I didn't want to ask her to take sides. I just said, just state the fact that James used to take my kid and he could be trusted with kids. Anyway, I went through that and all kinds of hell. And that goes back to my theme here. Everybody is full of shit. Most people are fake and phony. Now, I'm not going to knock people for putting their best foot forward. But since I was a kid, I've hated fakeness, phoniness, or people putting up a front. It's like people are people. We all got the same insecurities. Like David Goggins says. He says it great. We are all effed up. We all got some demons. We all got messed up stuff. We just don't talk about it. He's like, people don't talk about it like I talk about the messed up childhood I had. But people respect and appreciate him because he's so real and honest because like, oh, I can relate to him because I went through the same thing. But you would never talk to somebody about it. Like the average person in humanity can't be themselves and just let down their guard because they'll be rejected, bullied, made fun of, laughed at, or whatever. I used to hate that. So if I was in a crowd of people that are being fake and I could tell these guys are overly fake, you can't be normal or just be yourself around them. I would just step back. Like that Homer Simpson meme or gif where he just fades into the bushes. That was me if people were being fake around me. So I have zero tolerance for an attorney who's fake and say, well, you can't get 50-50 your kid. I'm like, I talked to Goldberg and Jones and the Divorce for Men law firm in Seattle. I said, why can't I get 50-50? I live 3 blocks from the mother. I work at night. I could at least be my daughter's daycare. They told me, even though I'm off during the day, the mother could drive by, drop the kid off at the door. I sub-rented from a buddy of mine who had a family, so I'm downstairs in a split-level home. I'm 31 years old, just working a blue-collar job. Remember, I was a warehouse worker who flunked out of college when I started my custody case. Just having a decent time in life, just being around friends and just working a job to pay my bills and figured out my way through life and stuff. And my baby's mom could drop my daughter off at the door, and I didn't even have to come to the door. She could drop it off to somebody else. She had roommates. She lived with her sisters and a couple other psychotic evil witches who came to court to testify against me. And they're all a bunch of single. It's like her and her friends and her group of people. They're all going to die old maids. Goldberg and Jones tells me you can't get 50-50. And I was like, and we need $5,000. You'll probably get it over the weekend. I said, I live next to my baby's mom. I can walk there in 3 minutes. I work at night. What are you talking about? You'll probably still get it over the weekend. Click. Bye. You're out of your damn mind. I'm not going to come up with that fake, stupid, phony, whatever reason you have for that. That's the most asinine bullcrap I've ever heard. What? I didn't tolerate that stuff. That's why when you guys come across me and people in the comments or people who criticize me say, well, you had it easy and you don't know what I went through and you don't know this, you don't know that. Do you have 11 or 1,200 documents in your court file? The average person in an ugly, hotly contested divorce has 250, maybe up to 400 in their first couple of years of fighting in court. I have 1,100 because I was dragged back in court over and over and over again. And then when I went back to court for either contempt or to modify child support, my baby's mom's attorney would turn a 2-week motion hearing and drag it out and turn it into a 4-month event where we went to war. And he's always taunting and harassing me and all this. But you guys would have never went back to court if you had to deal with this opposing attorney. Maybe about 10 of you out there. I got 8,000 followers or subscribers, on YouTube. Maybe about 10 of you would have fought as long as I did. There are people who look at my case. Even after I got full custody, the mother was allowed to come to court and said, I don't think James is spending enough time with my kid. James is mentally ill. He's abusive to women and children. He's crazy, this and that. How can you have if you went into court and you said, and you were a dad who lived halfway across the country, and you said, I think my baby's mom isn't spending enough time with our kids, they would laugh you out of court and give Civil Rule 11 sanctions against you for having the audacity to say that. My baby's mom did that to me all the time in my court case for 20 years. I got zero. You would think she would have said, thanks for raising my daughter. I appreciate it. Never got that. She abandoned our daughter for 1.5, 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years at a time. Again, people are full of shit. She used to love kids in our church and do stuff with the kids and stuff like that. Then when she had a kid, she abandons our kid. Everybody's full of shit. Demand that people prove to you they know what they're talking about. Demand a guardian ad litem show you their CV or their resume. Do a deposition on them and grill the crap out of them. I had a guy today I was consulting with. His attorney didn't even think of the possibility of doing a deposition on the guardian ad litem who's coming to court and writing a report or recommending some great things about the mother who's a mentally ill psycho. Let me get to some of these comments here. C. Robbins Fly says, my lawyer has finally agreed the mother is in contempt. It's only taken 10 emails with the mother's attorney even basically admitting she's in contempt. That's crazy that you got the mother's attorney to admit it. I write one email and then, letter writing is a huge part of this. And you guys need to master this. I was just talking to somebody today. Her attorney isn't working for her. The dad is taunting her and talking crazy about her to the reunification therapy. This is a mom who's been alienated. The reunification therapist and all this other stuff. She's finally getting off of supervised visitation after a very long time. And then the dad's talking crazy crap to her. He's talking to the therapist saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that because the mother did this. And he's talking like 4 or 5 years ago she did this. That's already over with. They already had the divorce. He can't relitigate that. But he's taunting her and psychologically wearing her down. I said, you have to light a fire under your attorney's ass and have the attorney write a demand letter that he cease and desist this. So we went through step to say in the letter, and hopefully she's going to have her attorney send it off, and hopefully the attorney will send it off. And it says, your client is harassing the mother They're getting into reunification therapy. He opposed that. He opposed this. He's been alienating and undermining. And he basically admits in his letter that he's telling the kid about how life really is. Well, he's slandering the mother. He's putting it in writing. This guy is so stupid. He's such a bit. I hope when she's done with this, I've been monitoring this case for a while, that she lets me do a video on this, because I want to do a playlist on my YouTube of the worst narcissistic parents. I'm going to do my baby's mom. There's a guy up here who got custody of his kids when they were 15. The first kid was age 1 when he met me. Then he finally got custody of his 2 daughters when the oldest was 15. So he worked with me for 14, 15 years. And I'm still working with him on another legal matter, like it's basically 20 years later. His kids are grown and they still come and hang out with him and don't want to have anything much to do with their mother. They woke up to the alienation and the games and stuff. But this lady, back to letter writing, this lady, she's like, my attorney won't do anything. I'm like, you have to. You can't complain to me about what's going on and then not do anything. So we're going over stuff with what she's going to write in the letter to tell her. So she's telling her attorney, I need you to get him to cease and desist from all this harassment. It's tormenting me. Here's a letter you should send to him, or do something like it. We cited stuff that he said that was crazy, other stuff he said that was crazy, stuff he said that incriminates him, stuff he said during the therapy session, where he basically admitted he'll do anything he can to destroy the mother, to the therapist. But nobody's talking about it. It hasn't been to court. I mean, her attorney isn't talking about it. Of course, his attorney isn't going to admit it. The therapist isn't reporting it to the judge and recommending that she get custody away from this narcissistic bitch of a faggot, woman, chauvinist bitch. Just like any other dude, even though I talk smack about women, just like any other dude, I hate bullies or people who are stronger intellectually or physically who bully other people. It's almost like 99.9% of dudes out there hate dudes who beat up on women and abuse women. So all this hype about men abusing women is utter bullcrap. So the big thing about the letter that she's writing, though, is to say, is a line in there where it says, and I helped her come up with that, if you don't admonish your client to stop this and confirm with me within 48 hours that you talked to him about it, I will assume that you're coaching him to do this, or you're approving of it, and you're aiding and abetting it, which violates the rules of professional conduct, oath of an attorney, and stuff like that. And if attorney tells another attorney that you're crossing the line with that, that attorney might get scared that the opposing attorney is going to file a bar complaint. They don't give a shit about me or a pro se or somebody else filing a bar complaint, but another attorney filing a bar complaint is more legit, because the attorneys in the club, if they file a complaint, we had a family law commissioner. She had about 7 or 8 lawyers file a complaint about her and her anger problem, and she got disciplined by the Commission on Judicial Conduct, and she had an anger management person coming into court and observing her, because enough attorneys said something about it that they took it legitimately on its face just because attorneys said something. But the art of writing a letter is you demand somebody to do something, or you say, hey, here's another example. Hey, let's say you're a dad watching me, and the mom's attorney writes you a letter and say, hey, stop harassing my client at the visitation exchange. You taunted her and you scared her. Then you're like, what the hell is he even talking about? And then you ignore the letter. Then a week later said, you did it again at the visitation exchange. I told you to cease and desist. You need to knock that off. And you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I didn't even talk to her. I didn't even look at the. And this is why you guys should videotape visitation exchanges, or at least take pictures. Or when you're doing a visitation exchange, you say, hey, I'm sitting here, and you have a paper. You always got to think, how am I going to prove to somebody later that this went down the way it went down? I'm going to go off on a tangent again, because it just reminded me, when I did visitation exchanges with my baby's mom, I would go to McDonald's and I would buy a coffee or a fry or something cheap or a hash brown. And because, everybody didn't have cell phones then. It was like 2002, 2003, 2004. I had a receipt. It had the time and location where I was at. So I had a receipt that I was sitting there. So if they were a no-show or she was late, I had a paper trail. I'm always thinking, how do I prove what I'm doing to court later? And the more I find out different issues that people use against me, the more I'm like, okay, let me have a paper trail for this. Let me have a paper trail for that. Well, I'm taking my daughter to the zoo. Let me take some pictures so I can show what good time we have with her. You got to be thinking all the time while you're in the middle of a court battle, because war doesn't stop when the sun sets. Soldiers who are off to war and they're in battle, they have shifts where people are watching or keeping guard round the clock. Everybody goes to sleep and they get ambushed, right? You're in warfare mindset all the time. So back to the example where a lawyer tells you, hey, stop messing with my client during the visitation exchange. Hey, you harassed her. Hey, you flipped her off. Hey, you spit at her. Hey, you're taunting her. Like, that's bullcrap. So they do that a couple times. The next thing you know, a week later, you're in an ex parte emergency courtroom and they're trying to get a restraining order because you harassed her 3 times in a row. Well, I wrote them a letter warning them. I wrote them another letter. Then they believe the attorney because the attorney has a paper trail. And your dumbass didn't even counter him and say, dude, like when I'm dealing with somebody who has a lawyer, letters like that, I would say, write them back and say, stop engaging in the age-old attorney trick, or the oldest attorney trick in the book. That's the age-old attorney trick to create a history that doesn't exist so you can use it in court. Knock that off. I wasn't even near the mother. She flatters herself. She told you that and you believe her, she's talking and acting like a paranoid schizophrenic, or she's a pathological liar. And I'll ask for Civil Rule 11 sanctions if you go to court and try and say that bullshit. See, everybody's full of shit. Every time they're doing something, they have an ulterior motive. Never let your guard down and think, oh, they're just saying that because that was their perception. No, they're setting you up because everybody's full of shit. Okay, let me go back to... So back to C. Robbins Fly. He said, my lawyers finally agreed to the mother's in contempt. So your lawyer, if the mother's in contempt, your lawyer should have been on that shit immediately. I tell people, somebody's in contempt, do a contempt motion immediately. I did it. Now, it took me a while because my slow ass and retarded ass, a warehouse worker who flunked out of college, I'm sitting there learning this stuff brand new. It took me, let's see, when did she do it? Her first violation was June 1st. I didn't get into court till like mid-July. Then my baby's mom scheduled an unnecessary surgery for my daughter that I objected to, and the doctor said, oh, we don't need to do it. So I had to reset it, and I didn't get a hearing until 9/12, the day after 9/11. So July, August, September. So it took me another couple months. If I knew back then what I knew now, or if I had a place like Father's Rights and Resources or How I Got Custody page, my 7-month custody battle would have been over in 3 months. I guarantee it. That's why I don't give you guys any excuse making bullshit. Because everything you're crying, oh, this is so hard. It was hard for me. Oh, I'm so depressed. I was depressed too. I can't believe the audacity. I trusted her. So did I. I've been there. You don't understand, James, all the people who came against me. I just gave you a story of people that I loved and thought was family that were close to me, that totally betrayed me. Like, this is some house slave level bullshit. You know, like stepping into Django, or, you know, the house slaves, they would go out and whip the black slaves on the plantation, and they would do the master's dirty work, or the plantation owner's dirty work, because they let one of the slaves live in the house and get the crumbs from the table and live comfortably in a bed. So he was a total sellout, whipping the slaves or shooting them if they ran away. That's selling out. You're of the same ethnicity or race of the slaves, and you become the right hand worker for our oppressor. What's crazy is my baby's mom, she's black, and her attorney that she sicked on me for most of my custody, she had one attorney I kicked his ass big time. Oh, I really kicked Don Farrell's ass too, but this guy was a racist who said racial slurs to a female attorney. And he, like I've said before, he's tanked cases on purpose so women would lose their court cases. And they go broke. He would lose their case on purpose. And then he'd always do, he did this to 20 different women at least. And I found this out because I got off my ass, unlike 99.9% of you, and I researched my baby's mom's attorney, and I looked at all the court cases, because most states you can search a name and find what court cases they have. And he had a couple of lawsuits for malpractice. And I found one where the woman won, and I called her and hunted her down. Because I take this shit seriously. And I'm thinking about doing stuff from every angle. So I talked to this lady, and she told me he screwed up 2 or 3 hearings, didn't tell her about some stuff, and he said, oh, you poor little thing, I'm sorry, you're going broke, you got to get kicked out of the house, the husband got custody of the kid, you can come live with me for a while, you're too beautiful for this to happen. She's like, F you, what the hell? Then she tried to fire me, we can get fired. Then she sued him for malpractice, and she got all of her money back. But then she didn't file a bar complaint. So the bar didn't even know about it until 10 years later, actually 99, about 10 years later, when I brought it up. And they said, well, this is a malpractice suit. We only deal with ethical violations. But when I brought up the racial slur, calling an Asian attorney a lying C word, the bar admonished him, and they did research and they admonished him, a private admonishment for an attorney with 40 years experience. So they were being stupid and letting him get off easy. But the woman I talked to, she said during my lawsuit, I found out that he had done this to 20 other women, and they would come live with him because I didn't have a place to go. And he would say, you can work off your bill by doing free legal secretary work for me. And, so he had a slave labor operation going on with 20 different clients, and he probably had them for like half a year up to a year. So it was like 20 years. He had a slave labor operation going on in his home. And I used that against him and called him out and did videos on him and stuff like that. And I told his kids, and I told his kids' neighbors, and I wrote his neighbors. And I basically let everybody know, and I disturbed his bubble. If just 10% of you got off your ass and did half the stuff I did, we'd turn this whole thing upside down. But most people don't want to do that because you're full of shit. Everybody wants to win in court, just like everybody wants to be a millionaire, but people don't want to put in the work, so they just hate on millionaires and say, James, they want custody, but they say, James, you're lucky. Oh, the only reason you got custody is because you married a black crackhead. I didn't marry my baby's mom. She was successful, got a master's degree in HR, made 90 grand a year, never done any drugs in her life, maybe drink some wine. People just make up the craziest asinine, and that's men. That's faggoty men hating on me because I won in court. Everybody's full of shit. But you could be one of those 1%ers who are not full of shit. It's getting hot mug in here, so I'm going to take a second. So, that being said, where was I? Let me get back to here. So, on the C. Robbins fly, his attorney finally agrees the mother's in contempt. The mother's attorney agrees she's in contempt. But it took 10 letters. You should have only taken 1 letter. And then here's what you do in a letter also. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. You write a letter, and I kind of talked about it, but I didn't emphasize it. You write a letter and say, if I don't hear from you within 48 hours, I will assume that you're coaching your client to do this. You're putting words in their mouth if they don't answer you. If you say, like, hey, where's all the money? You guys had 100,000 in savings, and now 90,000 of it's gone. Where did it go? If I don't hear back from you, I'm going to assume you spent it on your gambling habit. And they don't get back to you. Say, hey, I'll give you 24 more hours to get back to me. I wrote you about this. You didn't answer this issue. So then you go to court and say, this person spent all their money on gambling. And they might go to court and say, how the hell do they know that? Where did they get that? Well, I wrote them. Why didn't they just answer? And it's a preponderance of evidence court. And the court might believe you because you wrote them and they didn't respond and you pinned them down. If you don't reply in this time, I will assume it means this and that. I've had attorneys quit on their clients because me or my clients wrote a letter saying, if you don't do this by this time, I will assume this. and they couldn't get their client to tell the truth, or they couldn't dig up information, or we went to court and exposed them. We're doing civil Rule 11 sanctions against the attorney, filing a bar complaint, maybe suing. I sued both my guardian ad litems in small claims court, and my baby's mom, and my baby's mom's attorney. I have a pending federal lawsuit against my baby's mom and my assigned judge and the opposing attorney. It got dismissed because I never got the mother served because I couldn't find her. I didn't know where she was. And it was COVID and stuff. So I think I might restart that up because they dismissed it without prejudice. So I could bring it up whatever because I made the deadline. All that being said, learn how to write letters and light a fire under people and make them move. Same with your attorney. If you don't get back to me within 24 hours, then I'll assume you don't want to fight for me and you're violating RPC 3.1 on diligence. Wait, what am I talking about? 4? Is it 4? Oh my God, now I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, 3.1. No, I'm sorry. 1.1 competence, 1.2 diligence, 1.4 communication. Then I'm just going to assume you're refusing to communicate with me on purpose because you got nothing better to do, or you got something better to do than work for your clients. You're out goofing off or whatever, which is a violation of RPC 1.4 or whatever. And I show you guys how to deal with attorneys in free videos on my YouTube channel if you don't know how to do this, or letter writing. I have a video on letter writing. Anytime there's an issue or topic that you're dealing with, it's free, and I have free videos. But really what you should do, if you're not full of shit like the average person is get a consult with me. The vast majority of you, it's impossible that you will be able to navigate all my videos and put them in an organized fashion and condense them. Those are videos I've done as topics come up. I don't have an online course. I'm thinking about trying to put something together with different categories, or maybe doing Zoom classes or something like that on a few major categories. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. It'd be nice if I just did classes and I could do them for real cheap, and then I can make some money and you guys don't have to pay that much money, and we could have certain topics, and I'll have energy to put a good class together, because then I could just do that from here on out instead of fighting people all week long and figure out, did you want a consult? You texted me and I texted you back and I said this and I'm following up with them. It seems like they want a consult. Like, I don't chase people, but people want to talk back and forth. I had somebody set up a consult today. A friend called and said, hey, this guy needs your help. I'm like, I need him to reach out to me. I'm not going to ambulance chase people like lawyers do. So that guy reached out to me, and then he said my friend, and then my dad, and then my mom. I'm going back between 4 people for 20 minutes, and we haven't even had a paid consult yet. I can't do that kind of stuff. And people want to do that stuff all day long, every day, because they're full of shit. Now, some people are emotional. This is overwhelming and all that other stuff. You can't go to a dentist's office and say, hey, look, I need a tooth pulled. And by the way, what did you think about how Tom Brady played this weekend? What do you think about the Last Dance special, Michael Jordan? You can't sit there and just blab and talk and stuff like that. You schedule an appointment and that's it. I don't know why people think that's such a crazy concept that I ask people to schedule an appointment and be ready to rock and roll and decide on a day. I'll say, hey, what day and time do you want to talk? Oh, next week sometime. What day and time do you want to talk? There's another thing, like a lot of people are full of shit. The vast majority of people can't listen, or they don't know how to articulate shit. I'm being straightforward and down to business and want to help somebody and move forward and get right to the point. What day and time do you want to talk? Oh, next week sometime. Well, what day? Oh, probably early in the week. What works for you? I'm wide open. Pick a day. Oh, well, I don't know. I got to do this and I got to do that. And I got to go to the mall and I got a family reunion and I got a funeral to go to. Dude, I don't need your freaking itinerary. If you actually have some kind of sense of urgency, you want to fight for your kid, what the hell are you waiting around, dilly-dallying around and pussyfooting around? What the F are we doing right here? I'm the guy that can help you, and you're sitting there pussyfooting around like you got a decade to figure out what the hell you're going to do. I don't understand why people can't say, when I would call my mentor up, I said, hey, I need a consult with you. He go, when do you want to talk? First thing Monday, you got anything open? I'm busy in the morning Monday. You can come by in the afternoon. Okay, 1 o'clock. Okay, I'll be there. Boom, it's done. But I have people who literally take hours or sometimes days to get back to me about this stuff, which tells me you don't really give a shit. And some people who take days or weeks to get back, hey, I called you before, I couldn't do a consult, I'm ready now, sorry. Like, you don't need to apologize. I forget who calls me anyway. Unless you're a repeat client over and over. I can't remember everybody. I have it set up so we do a consult, we bang out every information you got, you take good notes, and you have a directive and you have a plan specific to your case. You need that. Unless you want to spend 10,000 hours watching videos of mine, and by the time you're getting your ass handed to you, then you're on video 372 and you got 700 more, instead of getting a consult with me. It doesn't make any damn sense to me. Like, I'm an excuse killer. People who want to make excuses why they don't get off their ass, decide to do something, they're not being decisive, they're scared, they got this, they go, James, you don't understand. Yes, the F I do. The only thing I haven't had done to me is being falsely accused of molestation or rape. Been falsely accused of abusing kids, abusing women. I'm a bad parent. I'm bipolar. I can't handle a kid. This faggot, Chemo Scott Evans, who's a graphic arts designer in Tacoma, Washington, Chemo, K-I-M-O, Scott Evans, he said, James should not be responsible for a child. There's a danger that he'll harm the child and harm himself. So he should stay away from a child because he can harm himself. He's retarded on top of being a little man disease punk little bitch. A guy I actually roomed with, the only guy who testified against me, him and his wife, Mary Beth Solscheid Evans, who went to high school in Central Valley in Spokane area. I post at least once a year. I post their statements where they testified trying to destroy my life with my kid. To me, those people tried to destroy my life with my kid, so I'm going to let people know what their real legacy is. I dox the shit out of people like that. Like, I don't give their home address or this or that, but I'll talk. Well, I have actually sometimes, but for the most part, I'll post on Facebook. So mutual friends of mine are friends of them or friends with their friends. So that stuff gets around. Those guys did this to me before Facebook came out. They had no idea about the possibility that it would get out what they did and the evil deed that they did. Anyway, let me get back to your question. Sorry. Risky business. They cost money, though. LOL. Oh, you must be replying to C. Robbins about attorneys. Okay, Bertha Guerrero. I love Contempt, especially when you have all the facts. Worked out pretty well so far. Contempt is the only one remedy, the only recourse when somebody's violating a court order. You could get makeup time. They could go to jail. You can get them sanctioned. When I did my first contempt, I missed 5 visits. 5 4-hour visits with my daughter. First I got, when she was 3 months old, I got 4-hour visits Monday through Friday. My mother worked 4/10, so Monday through Friday and 8 hours on Sunday. So I could take her to visit family 30 minutes away. I got her found in contempt 4 out of 5 days. The mother made an excuse, oh, she was sick this day. So the court's going to let that slide. Reasonable excuse. That's an excuse. That's a defense for contempt. Your attorney won't tell you that. Every state has the case law on contempt. In every state I've looked it up. It's the same. The elements of contempt are a willful violation, or you got a violation that's willful of a valid court order, and you don't have any reasonable excuse. And then there's an element of bad faith. They got to prove 5 things. If you did it willfully and in bad faith, well, it wouldn't be bad faith. You have a reasonable excuse. Those two are tied together. If you have a valid court order and you violated it and you did it willfully, but you have a good excuse, like the mom's boyfriend is a pedophile, so I don't want the kids around him, that's a good excuse. You don't get found in contempt. Or on child support, when they do contempt on child support, they do contempt. There's a million arguments on contempt that none of you guys use, your attorneys don't use, and you never get a consult with me until you've been found in contempt 4 times, or you don't even try contempt for 3, 4, 5 years, and you could have got full custody by now if you would have done contempt. You know, in Washington State, RCW 26.09.260, I think it's subsection 2, the reasons you can change custody. Number 1, abuse. You guys deviated from the parenting plan and they let you have custody for so long. That's what you should do. Abuse the child's environment is detrimental. Gosh, I forgot the third one. And the fourth one is being found in contempt twice within 3 years. That's a long time to have to get somebody found in contempt twice. And some of you idiots don't even try contempt once. What the entire F is wrong with you? Contempt is considered so bad that if you do it twice within 3 years in Washington, that's grounds the other parent to change custody. And you guys in other states should be citing that. And you would already know that if you had contempt issues, because I would bring them up in a one-on-one consultation. But you don't get a consultation with me because you don't give a shit because you're full of shit. When you guys look at the body of work and information that I have, it's astounding that I don't have 1 million subscribers. I don't know anybody else out there who is showing you winning orders. Now, the child support is fraud type of guys, they have testimonials. And, you know, that's the administrative hearing. I did this on the video last night that I didn't post, but if you have an administrative order of child support, now, there's the courthouse over here. There's the courthouse over here. There's this building over here called Superior Court of Washington, Superior Court of California, District Court of Illinois, Court of Common Pleas in Pennsylvania, whatever your courthouse is called, where they have criminal trials and people go to jail and the sheriffs are there. That's the courthouse. There's this building over here where all they do is child support. It's usually a DSHS building, Office of Administrative Hearings. They do, you know, like arbitrations, or they do CPS stuff. And, you know, I don't know what, there's other stuff that they do dealing with administrative codes. But administrative codes aren't created by the legislature most of the time. And the judges are appointed by the executive branch or the governor. Those judges are not elected by we the people. This is our government run by us. We have legislators that we vote in to pass laws, and then we vote in judges to interpret those laws and do the best for us according to the Code of Judicial Conduct. Now, I just said a mouthful. You guys should have that memorized where you should know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, you need a freaking consult with me. I really shouldn't have to say it, and I feel bad when I say it because it looked like I'm a hustler like Judge Anthony or whatever. But I have to say it because you almost have to prod people along. Like, come on, you can do it. You need some help with somebody. But we don't do that anywhere else in life. If Kobe Bryant had a basketball camp while he was alive, he wouldn't say, okay, here's how I practiced dribbling when I was your guys' age. He has 10-year-olds. This is how I practiced dribbling. I did the basics. And they get up and say, everybody do that. And then some kids are scared to do it. He's not going to sit there for an hour and say, come on, you can get up. I know you can do it. And if they don't want to do it, then what the F are you even doing here? You kick them out of the camp and give them the money back. I don't get it. Everybody's whining and crying. Fathers Matter 247 on Facebook. Every post, 200 comments. Whine, cry, piss and moan. Whine, cry, piss and moan. The court sucks. Every once in a while, you'll see one guy who says, look at all these people commenting. Why don't we get together and form a group, or why don't we bounce stuff off each other and have ideas and learn how to fight? No, whine, cry, piss and moan. Whine, cry, piss and moan. I'm a pussy-ass bitch. I want somebody to hug me and spoon me and dry hump me to make me feel better. You're in luck. The Father's Rights Movement meetings, Mark Ludwig and all those faggots want to sit around and have a gay orgy and dry hump each other and spoon each other, and Misery Loves Company is all the meetings. Last time I had a Father's Rights Movement meeting, last time I went to one of those, whine, cry, piss and moan. A guy says, I haven't seen my kid in a year. I said, do a contempt. Well, I tried. Well, she's in contempt every weekend that you miss. Do it again and do it again. Stop being a pussy-ass bitch, you faggot. Here's the chance you get somebody. That's like somebody breaks in your house, they don't catch the guy. Then they break in your house again, you got video, you caught him on video surveillance. And you say, no, I already tried to call the cops one time. Then they break in and steal something else. Then they steal your wedding rings. Then they steal your TV. Then they hit one of your kids and knock them out because they woke up when they were stealing something. And you're like, well, I already tried once. That would be retarded and insane if you thought like that. You would call the cops every single time. But not my bitch-ass faggoty gender when it comes to family court. We don't use the same logic we use in every other area of life. We think we could study before the final exam the night before. I have people call me up, hey, I got trial tomorrow. Any advice? First of all, expecting that I'm going to sit there and prep them for trial for free. Second of all, why the F are you waiting until now to do it? Again, everybody is full of shit. Well, I'll die for my kids. I'll do anything for my kids except fight for them when it's hard and you got a labia injury and your cervix is sore because you're a feminine little bitch. Anyway, let's get back to, I'm going to run through these questions or comments really fast. I promise. C. Robbins Fly said, I would love that citation. I agree. Are you talking to somebody else or were you asking me about that? Maeda did eventually get custody. He had a PO against him for 5 years. Wow. That's cool to know. Why is Maeda suddenly saying you can represent yourself? You just got to work hard, though. Was he forced to represent himself finally? See, it'd be cool if, like, we could network together, because it seems like he woke the hell up, because before he was, oh, you can't be pro se, you can't be pro se. Then for some reason, when I searched my own hashtag, how I got custody, I was just curious to see, has anybody ever used this? Because I'm pretty much the only one in the world. And I picked how I got custody because I wanted something unique. I didn't want father's rights or father's this or father's that, dads against discrimination. 3 different groups have been called dads against discrimination. I wanted something different. And I wanted it to say in the hashtag what I'm about, how I got custody. I share with you how I got custody. Turns out 99.9% of my gender is a bunch of F-tard, retarded, lazy-ass bitches, and they can't think, oh my God, this guy says how I got custody? Did he get custody? I would want to find out how. Like, let me at least ask in the comments. There's one numbnuts, punk-ass, lazy bitch, doesn't subscribe to me on TikTok. In the comments, he puts info. Just the word info. What the hell are you talking about, bitch? Do you want info on something I said in the video? If so, which one of the 10 topics that I covered are you talking about? Are you talking about my personal info? It's already in the bio, you lazy-ass mother effing bitch who doesn't give a shit about your kids. You see why I go off like the way that I do on you guys? And it's not all of you. I'm talking about the guys who've been watching me for 2 years and you never got off your ass and you're scared and you're scared. You're like, I should do a cover for this. I keep thinking about this. You're like the kid on a 1 meter, you're like a 7-year-old. He's on a 1 meter diving board and dad is there and he's got the air bubble wraps, little mini, I don't know, life jacket for your arm or whatever. But there's air things on their arm. They got goggles on. They're totally covered. Dad's ready to catch them. And they stand there on the diving board. And you know what happens? The longer they stand there on the diving board, dreading jumping in the water, they get more and more scared. What's going to kill that fear? You have to know the answer to this. A kid is on the diving board. He's never jumped off a diving board. There's kids younger than him that were jumping off it and doing cannonballs and flips. He saw it. He was excited. Then he got up there and he got scared and he was paralyzed. What's going to kill his fear? Jumping in and just doing it. And we got pussy ass bitches who won't do it. Watch me. Watch testimony after testimony. HIGC testimony on YouTube. You can find several testimonies of people texting me, emailing me. Sometimes I don't know who they are. Forget a consult we have. Some people never got a consult with me. All they did was watch my videos. I guess Steve Maeda, he said he had a bunch of video testimonies, so maybe he came around and he learned how to go pro se, because he sounds like he's all cool with the pro se. So since he got custody, and you know who also actually got 50-50 after a while? Tough Dad, the unmarried father. I think it's Ryan. Is it Ryan, the unmarried father? Ryan Tough Dad. I criticize that guy because all he has is dancing around with his daughter and family court sucks and all these memes and stuff like that. Just like Fathers Matter 247. That bitch ass faggot. That guy's a bitch ass faggot house slave bitch. Because he's got a huge following. He won't give guys one single hint on how to fight. He's preying upon guys' pain and suffering, and he has a great following. He can actually get off his ass and think what he can do to help dads, but all he wants to do is have a one-man circle jerking off to all the people that follow him because it feels good to have all that popularity. There's a woman out there who lost 5 of her kids. A friend of mine points her out to me all the time, says this chick, she just loves the attention of whining and crying about her kids missing. It's like you miss your kids, so you're up here and you got attention from these people, so now that you're addicted to that. I forgot what the hell I was talking about. I lied to you guys. Sorry. So Maeda got, okay, custody. He had a 5-year protection order against him. He should have got my packet on defending against protection orders. He might have got it modified. But it'd be nice if people like us could get together. Oh, so Ryan the Tough Dad, he got 50-50. And then I saw on Facebook, one guy said, stop bragging, asshole. You just got lucky. Even Ryan the Tough Dad, after spending $25,000, he said something like that, in over 7 years, finally got 50-50. So I congratulated him again, but I've criticized the hell out of that guy because all he does is whine, cry, piss and moan. He's got 200,000 followers. He won't tell them do the war of attrition. He's a Mark Ludwig dick sucker who says, Mark Ludwig, we worship you. You're trying to get 50-50, and those 50-50 laws ain't doing shit for nothing or nobody. But I want kids to have a relationship with their dad. And when he got 50-50, I was happy for him. But then he had a hater on there hating on him. What the frick? How the hell do you hate on a dad who got 50-50 after he's been to war for 7 years? Because you're a faggot-ass bitch, little hater with feminine energy, and you were raised by a single mom, you little diva welfare mentality bitch who thinks somebody should just hand it to you. No wonder millionaires and people like, what's that guy's name? Andy Francesca. That guy is so sick of men being pussies. He's like, I was a fat slob. I got in shape. I'm a big buff dude now. I'm an entrepreneur that helps other guys become entrepreneurs. Get off your freaking faggoty ass and do something. You guys are so soft and pathetic. And I understand it. That's why David Goggins talks the way he talks. That's why Dan Pena talks. That guy is hardcore. He's like, you mother effing C word for vagina. You're all a bunch of C. And he talks about, growing up and getting beat up. And dad, I think like dad said, I'll beat you up if you don't beat the kid up. Like that stuff that he's saying is too far. When you start talking about violence with kids, teach your kid to be tough, but don't beat up your kid or bully your kid and mess your kid up. But he's probably got daddy issues. But still, he's right about most stuff. Bunch of pussy-ass bitches. But it'd be nice if Steve Maeda and Tough Dad, if we could all network. Even though I criticize those guys, Steve Maeda stole my hashtag, how I got custody, and used it. After he criticized anybody who went pro se for being stupid. I could let that slide if we all want to be on the same team. The Tough Dad, I criticized. I said, that guy hates me because he criticized me after I criticized him. He goes, dude, I support what you're doing. If you support what I'm doing, how come you're not telling dads to go pro se? You keep telling them to get a good attorney. What the fuck? Like, my gender is so freaking bipolar and stupid and all over the map. It's insane. Where the F are guys that use the logical side of the brain? Let's pretend it's right is for emotions and left. Where's the guys using the left side of their brains? I support you, James. You're doing what's great. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to tell people, go to James if you want to learn how to fight the right way. This and that. I refer people to other people all the time. I know a couple of dads that are helping people. I refer people to them if it's out of my reach, or there's a guy in Florida I refer people to, and he knows some Florida stuff like the back of his hand. He's in the greater Miami area, I think. I forget. But I probably need to do an ad to, there's a lady on here that does emotional support for people. She's an alienated mom, and she's overcome stuff. And she's trying to be a support coach for other people, give them hope, because she made it through for years of being alienated. And I promote her stuff on Instagram. I have, and then I think I have on YouTube. I have a short, I think. Anyway, when I find legitimate people, I'll promote them. I don't hate everybody and I'm not in competition with anybody. I got my own lane I'm dealing with. There's not enough of us out here helping people. There's a million con artists like Judge Anthony and Family Court Corner, $250 an hour. That lady spent $100,000, took her 10 years to get her kids. And she's going to tell people how to fight, and it took her 10 years and $100,000? Do you got 10 years to fight? Do you have $100,000 in your bank account to just throw away? That's why I was pissed at Steve Maeda. He's sitting there saying, go to the courthouse and talk to the clerk and get the laws from them. Bitch, they can't give you the laws. They can't give you legal advice on the laws that apply to you. You have to go look that up on your own. So it sounds like Maeda, he was way over here. Here's the right side of stuff, right from your guys. Here's the right way to go on the dial. He was way over here and full of shit and making money off people saying, you got to get a lawyer. Let me teach you how to win in court, even though I got my ass handed to me. And he got a 5-year DVPO. I fought off restraining orders. My baby's mom tried to get restraining anti-harassment. It wasn't domestic violence protection order, but she threw out, oh, James went like this to my face like a pimp and went skirt and stopped his hand close to my face just to scare me. Whatever, bitch. But I didn't get, it was anti-harassment, and it's the same thing. If I get a restraining order, I can't go near her, I violate it, I go to jail. She tried 7 different times over the course of about 8 years to get restraining orders again. Maybe 13 years. Was it all the way till, maybe till 13, yeah. She lost every single one. Some of them were easy because it was utter bullshit, because I don't even talk to the chick. I haven't talked to my baby's mom except for like 1 or 2 weeks since my daughter was born. Or since my daughter was born, she brought her over for a few weeks, and then we went to court when she was a few weeks old. Since we started going to court, I talked to my baby's mom like 2 weeks. After it was all over with, my daughter was 20. I reached out to her and texted her and said, hey, you don't got to answer this. Do it in your own time. Extending olive branch. Do you want to be cool? Our daughter may get married one day. It'd be nice for her sake if we can walk down the aisle or be there at her wedding or whatever together, and she could just feel more comfortable for her sake. I'm willing to squash it. Never heard from her. I reached out once to just do the right thing. Never heard from that crazy ass bitch. Sedaris Wright. She's the only person in the world with that name. Sedaris, Wright with a W. And if you take a look at, do I have a video with the pictures of them? Her two fat, ugly sisters, Barbara Wright and Yvonne Wright. Yvonne Wright is a life coach, and she has this hashtag or nickname, Von Reese, VONNRESE. Fat, ugly, manly chicks. Yvonne had a goatee for a while. Never had boyfriends. I think Barb's never had a boyfriend. Yvonne Wright, when she got in her mid-30s, she got a case of the hot ass because she went to Hollywood to pursue her failed acting career. And you could find anybody who'll sleep with anything with 2 legs in Hollywood, right? And anyway, and my baby's mom had a different dad. She's pretty, she's feminine, she's curvy. When she was 12 years old, she developed early, so she had 18-year-olds jocking her thinking she was 18. And so her sisters saw her whole life. So Barb and Yvonne saw Sedaris Wright. Her nickname is Sid for short, SYD. Sedaris Willette Wright. That's another person that has, like, Chemo Evans, one of my haters. He's about the only one in the country that has that name. Sedaris Wright, about the only one in the world that has that name. But her sisters hated on her because she got attention from men and had boyfriends, and she had to keep it a secret when she lost her virginity. I actually lost my virginity to my baby's mom when I was 27. We had a strong teaching in our church about waiting on the right time and the one for you and God's plan and all that stuff. And then, you know, I kind of backslid on that issue and then messed with her. God, I picked the wrong one. God, I could write you guys a book about every chapter of every phase. I went to jail for 8 days in my family law case. I could write a book about that experience. Because I don't want to sit up here and tell you my whole life story and everything. And it would take forever. And once I start talking, I'm trying to get help to you guys. But, you know, I interject stuff that I went through so that you can relate. But I could write a freaking book. I could write a Star Wars series. It used to be the Star Wars trilogy, but now there's, what, 8, 12 books, or Chronicles of Narnia type of Gone with the Wind, you know, type of novel about each year of my custody battle and going to court. Okay, I lied to you. I didn't stick to the questions that didn't stay that disciplined with them. Okay, so Bertha says, I like it. Oh, when you read up all the family law, everything starts to make more sense. Well, if the judges applied the law. They say the best interest of the child. What's the best interest of the child? Having both parents. Actually, the ideal best interest of the child is a married, intact family. So how do we get, and nobody ever, I've never ever seen one person in the millions of family law cases. What the very best, just think about the plain language of the words. Like this Bertha lady is saying, it makes sense. Think of the plain language of the words. We have great laws. And faggots like Mark Ludwig said, we got to change the laws. Stupid ass bitch. No, we don't. The laws are already in favor of dads getting custody most of the time because these women are narcissistic child abusers. You just won't go in there and talk about alienation the right way. See, guys will go in there and argue the wrong way. They say, I already argued that, James. No, bitch, you didn't argue the right way. If you're driving, you do your driving test, and they say you flunked because you didn't yield to the right of way. They say, I was yielding to everybody. I was yielding to people on the left and people on the right, and you caused a car accident because you're yielding to everybody. Just because you yield to everybody, you put effort into yielding to everybody, doesn't mean you did it right, you dumbass mother effer. Just because you tried hard in family court and you were passionate and you had evidence, doesn't mean you win, dumbass. It's the war of attrition. It's arguing the stuff the right way and painting a picture in court. And unbrainwashing the judges from always wanting to give custody to women or believing the one with the most demons because they're a bunch of demon-possessed, heathen, narcissistic, sociopathic, psycho people. They were family law attorneys. The magistrates, the judges, the commissioners. A lot of the judges were family law attorneys, and they worked their way in as a commissioner. Then they got appointed by the governor. They never even went through the voting process. It's a buddy-buddy system of a bunch of sexually deviant, perverted, cocaine addict, mother effing subhuman demon bitches. So the laws, the best interest of the child. What's the best interest of the child? Ideally, the very best interest of the child. Nobody can debate this. A married family with a mom and dad. Screw the LGBTQ, ABC, EFT, F them. Fuck those bitches. They want to read perverted books to our children in elementary school because they couldn't win adults over in the 90s. We want gay marriage. So now they want to brainwash the generation of kids and have, transvestites who they're men, they're not women, but they're men who dress up as women. They get sexually aroused. And you want sexually aroused men around your elementary school kids? They're preying like parasites upon them to brainwash them because they can't win adults over because adults were using common sense up until the early 90s. But anyway, the laws say the very best interest of the children. Ideally, the very best interest, mom, dad, intact married family, everybody's living together and being loving and wonderful. That is the very best interest. That's the goal. So why are we so far off of that? Why don't we make it, let's replicate the family as best we can given the broken family. Just like if you have a wound, let's say this is where your kneecap is, and you bust your knee and you get a scrape falling off a motorcycle and your knee is severed and it's open. So it's like this. You don't go in and get stitches and sew the bottom half and leave this flap open to get infected. You sew it both back together. You have a scar across your knee. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's better than if you would have left the wound open. It doesn't look as pretty as it did. You got a big fat scar and maybe your kneecap is off a little bit, but it's 90% functional. So the best interest of the child, go to court and argue this shit. I'm not up here for my own good. I'm sitting here on an off night. I pulled the all-nighter. I pulled the all-nighters like 2 nights in a row, slept and took like a 4-hour nap, had to go, help my elderly mother, help my sister with Down syndrome, talk to 50 people who didn't give a shit about their case. All they wanted to do was talk to me about and extract free stuff from me. And here I am doing stuff and talking about stuff, and 99% of you won't even use it. What the fuck? Why would you not use this free information? It makes damn common sense, does it? The law, every state says the best interest of the child. Any numbnuts and even an uninvolved monkey, I don't believe in evolution, but let's just try it. An unevolved Neanderthal or monkey with 3 brain cells firing knows this is the ideal. The family, mother and father in a home with the kids. So if the family's broken, if this was the best interest of the child, why don't we get as close as possible to that and have 50-50? You got to be an idiot to not want to do what's best for the, and then you start telling the judge and laying him, you have a duty of care to the welfare of the child. You have a duty of care to release this child into society to be a member of society that's productive and not suicidal and mental. We have a mental health illness crisis, and that's because kids are growing up without a father. All the statistics say that. You cannot release this child into society. You have a duty of care not just to the child, but to your voters and the people who you serve and the community. And you also, under the Code of Judicial Conduct, have a duty to maintain the public's confidence in the judicial system, or else our society falls apart and our democracy falls apart. That's what the Code of Judicial Conduct says. And see, I just slapped all that together off the top of my head, and I can ramble on about way more stuff. Because when I read this shit, I try and absorb it and remember it. Some of you guys read it just say, oh, that sounds good. and you have just some mental assent at the forefront of your brain. You don't absorb it and picture it and visualize it and see how it works. Because when you're in court, especially pro se, you have to paint a picture, and you also have to be passionate. Some guys will go in there, this guy named James told me to say that the best interest of children is to have both parents, and stats show that fathers are needed because all the psychology says that. I really love my kids. You get laughed out of court talking like that. And people go in there with arguments that compelling. I'm sitting here showing you how to paint a picture. Put the ideal situation on a pedestal and say, that's our goal. You mother effing subhuman, retarded, airheaded pieces of shit in this courthouse are saying 2 hours of visitation with the kids is good because the dad didn't see him for 3 months because the mother was withholding them. You stupid mother effing airheaded idiots, go, every single one of you, go look at Ariel Castro. He had 3 women in his basement in Ohio for 10 years. He kidnapped 3 different women at ages 17, 19, and 21, I think it was. This is why we should be protecting our daughters even up until their 20s. I'm paranoid for my daughter now that after she moved out at age 23. I hounded her and I told her why I was afraid for her safety and welfare. So she would check in with me and stuff like that. And sometimes it annoyed her in her rebellious teenager years, but most of the time she appreciated it. And now that she's older, she really appreciates it. But Ariel Castro had these 3 women in his home, in his basement for 10 years. Some guy found, one of them got out of the basement and screamed for help. This guy heard one of the ladies, called the cops. They broke the door down and they released him. Those mother effers did not say, oh, well, you're used to living in Ariel Castro's home in the basement for 10 years. Why don't you come outside for a couple hours and then go back in his basement for 22 hours? And then we'll make it 3 hours and 21, 4 hours and 20. And then we'll have gradual reunification with the regular world because, you know, you guys went in the basement when the internet was just coming out. You're not used to society. You'll be shocked. The pain of the adjustment back to society doesn't even compare to staying in a dungeon where they were tormented like Silence of the Lambs, the guy who kidnapped that one lady and had her in a hole in a dungeon in his house. That's freaking asinine. In the same way, it's asinine to say, oh, the dad can only have a little bit of time because the kids aren't used to him. That's some made-up bullshit that some guardian litem or some numbnuts, evil, radical feminist, demon-possessed Jezebel bitch made up, and then everybody started following it because these judges and attorneys, they're a bunch of middle-aged 8th graders who give into peer pressure. Oh, the last one has this convincing argument, so I'm going to... And then there's a tidal wave of the culture of the court. The real answer right now is for your punk ass to grow some balls and go into court and unbrainwash the culture of the court and have a tidal wave or a tsunami of influence on society so the judges change their minds about this. The civil rights era, the civil rights movement, I call bullshit on the Civil Rights Act doing anything for black people. It was people whose hearts had changed because they saw Martin Luther King up there, relatable, when they didn't have any black people in their neighborhood or they didn't know any black people. So all they had was the images on TV and like black people were a bunch of thugs and rapists and drug addicts. And they see Martin Luther King and Malcolm X debate articulately with white people on stage. Like, oh my God, these people are people too. They changed the hearts of people. F legislation bullshit. They changed the hearts of people. You got to change the heart of a judge. I tell you guys, use the law, use the science, and then tug at the heartstrings of the judge in your oral argument. Prove me wrong. Okay. Okay, so there's people going back and forth in the comments. I want to make sure if anybody has a question, I didn't miss it. What do family court investigators do? I'm not sure if you're asking that or you're going back and forth. Family court investigators, there's guardian litems, there's a family court investigator, there's an attorney for the kids, there's in King County in the Seattle area, we have family court services, family court investigations. Sometimes it's a social worker. Psychologists think social workers are idiots because they don't know anything about psychology. Psychiatrists think psychologists are idiots because they don't know anything about the medical side of the human element. You have to know the psyche of people, but you also need to know the physical stuff and using drugs and applying drugs and how they affect stuff. You said, what do family court investigators do? They go and investigate, and then the mom says her side of the story, the father says their side of the story. Maybe they interview the kids, and they report what everybody already said in court. They're a total obsolete moot point. Or as Joey from Friends would say, it's moo, like a cow. Why do you need a family court investigator to go and ask the mom, what's your side of the story? Dad, what's your side of the story? They can already say that in court. And then the guardian ad litem gets to interview a child who's brainwashed by one parent and reports that back to the court. That's stupid. That's some dumbass shit. See, they're all full of shit. The theme of this video is everybody's full of shit. The courts are full of shit. They go through a routine of stuff that they have going on. Just like Nazi Germany had their culture. 100 years later, everybody said that they are full of shit. We were paranoid about Japanese spies in America. So what do? We locked up and put Japanese citizens in concentration camps. We realize now that was bullshit, and they got reparations for that. Japanese citizens who were born in America who weren't spies were put in concentration camps because of fear and paranoia. Men get restraining orders against them because of fear and paranoia that one guy is going to kill them. And there's been like 13 cases in the history of America where a woman didn't get a restraining order and a guy killed a woman. Which, if they're willing to risk the death penalty and murder them, a piece of paper isn't going to stop them anyway. But then we have all these laws. They intensified the laws on restraining orders, and millions of dads are restrained from their kids, and it only works against good dads. But see, these are arguments you should bring up in court. What the fuck are you doing not bringing up the stuff in court that I talk about? And if you absorb and understand the principles I'm talking about, know how to look up case law, know the science, and think about what's the ideal situation? The judges aren't going to let you bring in God's design and stuff like that. What's nature's design? What's the natural order of things? Intact family. Okay, if that's the ideal, and we take the word best, and we go, I have my packet in my store of the number one argument for 50-50 or custody. I actually say the best interest of the child. I said, and I quote the dictionary. What does the word best mean? Ideal, optimum, pinnacle. I actually do that kind of stuff because you know why? Because this is freaking common sense. And when you talk about a word and people aren't doing it, then you define the word so you can paint a picture to people. And no one is doing this shit. People buy my package like, oh my God, my attorney never thought of this or never said that. It makes total sense. Because these attorneys are full of shit. And then you're sitting there saying, man, my attorney's paperwork is some bullshit. It doesn't sound like he's even trying. And you let him go in there with some bullshit. What the hell is wrong with him? And what the F is wrong with you? As much as you think this family court system is insane and it drives you nuts and you're like, what the hell is going on? I say the same thing about why aren't you following your conscience? Why are you following attorneys? They're all full of shit. This is all a big fake game. So what you have to do is manipulate the system and work it so you can get your kids. That's why this guy, one of the guys who came on my page last night, his name is Dex. And he said, go to Yaw is magnified. And it turned out that guy's page looks like it's decent. Looks like he knows what he's talking about. I don't know how much he's charging or how much he's hustling people. But this Dex idiot, he's going to talk about, treaties and contract law and this and that and that. Blah. Dude, did you have your kids? My page is about getting your kids. Oh, I got child support dismissed. Show me your dismissals, James. You mother effing stupid, retarded, emotional basket case, vagina carrying man. I'm not on here talking about administrative child support. I'm getting people their kids. All you care about is money and back child support, you bitch. Everybody's full of shit. There's 1% of you. There's like 10 of us in America that are, and I'm doing a high estimate because I know 3 or 4. So there's other people out there I've never met or don't know. And I've come across some TikToks that look legit. I haven't dived into them that deep. There's all kinds of people who care. But there's all kinds of people who care who are zealously about the system needs to change, and they don't know what the entire F they're doing, and they're just going off of their emotions. We need to fix the system. What the hell is going to work? I don't know. I'm just giving it a try. Well, why don't you go back in the past a few years and see what worked? Because what you're doing hasn't worked in 60 years, you dumbass, ignorant moron. And you're doing the insanity thing. You're repeating. You want different results by repeating the same thing. Lather, rinse. The fathers' rights groups from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, all the way up to 60 years ago did the exact same thing you dumbass mother effers are doing right now, and you expect to be the Martin Luther King of the family law movement. Shut the F up, you self-flattering, narcissistic, arrogant bitch. And the reason why I could talk like this is because I got my kid and had her for 23 years. Now somebody else got custody. This guy said Steve Maeda got custody. That sounds legit. Go talk to him and see what he did. If he charges 5 times as much as I do, you may want to talk to me and save money. If you go to Steve Maeda and he helps you get your kids, great, more power to you. I'm not against that. This stupid ass mother effing security guards flashing his annoying ass lights in the background. The security guard is a little attention whore. Hey, everybody, look at my security guard lights. I couldn't make it as a cop. I got bullied in high school, so I'm a security guard now. I think that's one, aside from, well, there's all kinds of problems in society. The average person nowadays has no self-awareness about anything. Like, there's been a couple times I got caught with my headlights off. I'm going to have to move again. The stuff's flashing off in my face. Like women who got their kids in a movie theater that are screaming, got no self-awareness. There's one time I was at Subway. This guy is not even in his vehicle and his lights are flashing. There's one time I was at Subway and this kid was screaming and whining, and it was annoying some people so much they walked up and said, "Can you control your kid?" And she's like, "He's just a baby, how dare you?" One of those stupid ass psycho bitches who thinks that children should run everything. I haven't talked to like some of my female friends, their kids are making noise, they're rebellious, they're jumping all up and down, getting into dangerous stuff, and I'm like, you're gonna have to deal with that. You can't let that slide. Oh no, I can't. Okay, so anyway, I'm rambling on. Hopefully that answers Bertha questions. Family court investigators, they go in and interview stuff with useless intent. Oh, we're going to investigate and make they're trying to be the eyes and ears of the court out in the field, kind of. But they don't give any extra enlightenment because all they do is repeat what everybody already says. Everybody is so blind and deceived. It's kind of like when we walked around like zombies during COVID and did whatever they told us and nobody did. If everybody were to actually research and saw what they did with the plague, with the Spanish flu, they did the same thing. They had people wearing masks and they were beating them down if they didn't wear masks. And it turned out the masks killed people because it trapped the 11 pathogens, including the one that causes bacterial pneumonia. And Dr. Fauci said everybody died from bacterial pneumonia. So he had a Freudian slip where he allowed that stuff to get out. We had a bunch of zombie-ass bitches walking around. Whatever you say, government, I love you and you love me and we have this great relationship. You've been looking out for me, stealing my taxes all my life, and now I totally trust you. And Dr. Fauci experiments on black kids in Africa. I totally trust you. Fuck out of here. I got no mercy for people who are that stupid. And we taught, fascism ever since like Hillary and Trump ran again. Oh, watch out for fascism in government and fascism and oligarchs. Oligarchs have been running the country for 5 decades. Nobody gave a shit until it became, until social media really hit its peak and people just bash each other. Each party doesn't have a policy. They're like, which ones can bash the other better or whatever. Anyway, I'm rambling. Risky Business says Texas Penal Code 32.53 is a start. I'm wondering, are you talking about custodial interference? You guys are talking back and forth. I'll stay out of that. Texas Penal Code 25.03. That guy's a little bitch. He said, now he's like the Steve Maeda of old. He said, if you're going to be pro se, you're going to lose. I said, you're lying, dude. I won pro se. I've helped thousands of guys win pro se. And he's like, you don't have a following. You got like 25 followers on Instagram. Shut up, James. Stupid ass bitch. He's just mad because he was wrong and he got caught being wrong. All he's got to do is delete my comment and say, dude, what are you talking about coming on my page? You can win. Did you really actually win? Because I couldn't win. It seems impossible. And then we can have a dialogue. But my gender's a bunch of faggot-ass drama queen bitches. This guy has a father's rights group. This guy has a group over here. And it's like gangbang and turf wars up in here. And we're on the same team, you stupid-ass bitches. Meanwhile, radical feminists They run into some feminists in that city, in that state, and they all get together and they have Believe Her campaigns and whatever the she movement thing was in 2020. That summer when they had a bunch of protests. Like the feminists all get together, women hate each other and they're catty and they're always petty and stuff. And Basketball Wives or TV shows, you see all kinds of drama. They can't get along for nothing. But when it's coming to their rights and abortion and let me do everything that I want, let me usurp a man and let me do anything a man can. Look at the WNBA. We want to get paid as much as the NBA players, or we want the same percentage share of revenue. The revenue of the WNBA is negative 40 million, you stupid ass airheaded bitches. I want a percentage of the revenue. Your percentage would be negative 475,000. So you would have to pay the WNBA 475,000 to play in the WNBA. You retarded, moronic, emotional, basket case, narcissistic diva bitch. Okay. I can't even remember where I was going with that. Birth of dependent. Okay, so you guys are talking amongst each. Okay, so I got Ape Hands Tay. Here in Oregon, I see that left and right, all the things you said and are saying. I'm not sure if you're talking about politically left and right or people on polar sides of stuff. I'm not sure. This comment might be old. It doesn't tell me how old the comments are. That kind of sucks. Juan Mendez. I got a question. So Juan Mendez has a question. For your actual trial, did you use a lawyer or did you do it your own? I never went to trial because I kicked so much ass, the mother surrendered. So in my original custody battle, I got on the offensive, beat the shit out of the mother in her restraining order attempt. I went to family court and tried to get visitation. I got 0 visitation. I appealed to a judge. Then she got an attorney. Then I went in and destroyed the attorney and got 5 days a week visitation. Then I got the mother found in contempt. They did discovery on me and sent me an interrogatories with 174 questions. I knew nothing about discovery until they sent it to me. My gender, usually a pussy-ass bitch dad says, oh my God, I got to answer all these questions. And you're such used to just being a mind slave, little henpecked, pussy-whipped bitch. You say, oh my God, I got to answer this and I got to obey them. The first thing I thought is, oh my God, you can ask 174 questions? I'm going to ask these same exact questions, turn around and send them to the mother. And those questions are still in my discovery packet, which nobody gets, except for one person every couple of months. I literally have, if you added up my packets in my store and the work that it would take an attorney to do that, that's probably $100,000 worth of work in there. And because I put my notes in there, and there's part of it's a little bit sloppy, and you have to go in there and you keep some of my arguments, you have to change the law. So I keep it cheap, and it's $45 for every packet. Almost nobody wants that stuff, though. There's people who never got a consult with me, and they got my defending against restraining order packet, and they destroyed the mother and got the restraining order kicked out. So I didn't go to trial, but listen very carefully. I engaged in the war of attrition. Then a year later, 2002, or 2003, 2 years later, after my case started, or a year and a half after my case ended, I moved 30 miles and the mother lived in LA. I lived in Seattle. I moved from Seattle to Tacoma, 30 miles. 2 biggest cities in Washington. The mother lived in LA. She had me in court for a year and a half. When it came time to get close to trial, I had an attorney because I was scared to go to trial, but then I realized I'm doing all the work. I'm writing everything. I know my case. So I have experience going pro se and going with an attorney, and I dominated and controlled my attorney because he let me do it. Chris Bartow, rest in peace. And when a judge says, I'm impressed with Chris Bartow's work, Chris Bartow said, no, Your Honor. That's James's work. He wrote it. And the judge said, maybe James should go to law school then. It's in a transcript in my flow page where I show you my winning orders. Guy last night, Dex, he said James didn't have custody. Bitch ass feminine faggot. I show my winning orders on there. And then he says, oh, technically if you have custody, if you have a court order, then the state tells you what to do. Nobody ever told me what to do, bitch. I had full custody. See, this guy's so caught up in this false doctrine cult, Kool-Aid drinking bitch mode of, let me talk about all these legal doctrines, and the courts don't have any authority, and while you're sitting around not winning shit, You think you're having a circle jerk with other guys who are in these Moors groups or whatever. Hey, we know all these laws and the court should do this. Bitch, I want to get people their kids. Take that shit somewhere else. So, modification. A year and a half into the modification, my baby's mom abandoned the daughter. I went to court by myself and got an emergency restraining order against her, and she was on supervised visitation. Now, she had the final order we agreed to. She had a month in the summer, spring break, half a Christmas break, any 4 weekends she wanted, and she knew she was going to move out of state when she drafted up. After we settled, then it took a month to draft it up. Then she decided to move out of state, follow her fat, ugly, goatee-wearing sister, Yvonne Charisse Wright, or Vaughn Reese, as you might find her on Facebook, Vonnrese. She moved out of state, but she had all this visitation that she didn't exercise. So because my daughter didn't really know her, I motioned ex parte, and I got an order that she's on supervised visits. So she came back to court to try and get more time and a parenting plan that worked better for her and was convenient for her. And then she got less time. And she had the humiliation of having my mom, my sister, a couple friends of mine supervise the visits. Then we had a couple of different hearings. Then the mother's case, then I got the mother's case thrown out. That's where I won a hearing. Then she appealed from a commissioner to a judge, and miraculously, it was brought back in. And then I went to the Court of Appeals, and they said, we're going to accept discretionary review of this bullshit. And then I said, do you want to go to trial? Do you want to fight me in the Court of Appeals? We're going to go to trial, and then you're probably going to lose. And they quit and dropped the case. Now, right leading up to that, I had done, like I told you, I was doing the work. I had trial notebooks. The mother never intended on going to trial, like 95% of these people do. Don't intend to. It's a war of attrition. You play a game of chicken, you're both running up. Like, let's say the phone is trial date. Run up to trial date, run up to trial. I don't want to go to trial, neither do I. Well, I'm going to go and pretend like I go to trial. And this bitch over here says, okay, stop. I surrender. What do you want to do? And their bluff of them playing chicken got this person to surrender like a bitch. I was willing to go to trial. My attorney was willing to put her attorney on the stand and question him because he wrote statements like, James is mentally ill, he's angry, he's dangerous to he disagrees with. I'm afraid he's going to become violent for the first time in his life towards somebody. We were going to put the guardian ad litem on the stand. I had 40 witnesses. I had 380 exhibits. I've shown in some of my videos, some of my books, a 3-ring binder. So look at a 3-ring, think of a 3-ring binder. I'm holding a 3-ring binder. And it has exhibits 1 through 80. And the next one has 81 through 160. I had 5 volumes of 3-ring binders. Those are all my exhibits. I had to make a copy for my attorney. I had to make a copy for the judge. I had to make a copy for the judge's assistant. So when we walk up to the stand and say, open up to exhibit 24. What is that? Oh, that's a declaration, this and that. Your Honor, I move for admission. And okay, why did you say that? I had 4 sets of 5 trial notebooks. I probably scared the shit out of the mother and her attorney. That's all the more reason they weren't ready to go to trial, because I was not even bluffing. I'm ready to take it to trial. And mother freaking gay ass bitch faggots don't even want to go to trial, and that's your day in court. Bunch of cowardly. If you're not willing to take your case to trial, oh, my attorney's too expensive. Then learn how to represent yourself, bitch. If you really love your kid and care about your kid, take it all the way. So I never went to trial, but I've worked with people on trials. I had a woman who's a drug addict, and she got clean and sober and stayed clean for a couple of years, but she was alienating from her sons. She didn't see her sons for a couple of years. Then it was time for her trial. She had a 2-day trial, and she prepped with me all weekend at the last minute, and she destroyed the father's attorney. She had like 24 years experience, and she went from 0 visitation with her kids in 2 years to a 50-50 plan after I helped her get ready for trial. She kicked ass at trial. Now, our 50-50 plan, that's a gradual unification. It's 4 hours supervised, 8 hours supervised. Then it's 6 hours unsupervised. Then it's 1 overnight, and it's 2 overnight. Now she's about I think September is when she gets the full-blown 50-50, but she was in awe. She's like, I can't believe I did that. I wouldn't be able to do it without you. And when her stuff is solid, she's going to do, hopefully we'll do a video interview, because that's one of the greater stories I had. Somebody who's just a drug addict and goes from 0 to 100, basically. I've been at people's trials where I sat in on trials. There's one time I was doing a trial with somebody, or they were at trial. They put their laptop on Messenger or Facebook Messenger, MSN chat or something like that. They put their intercom on. I was listening to the trial and I was feeding them information and talking to them while the trial said, hey, did you hear that? Yeah. Why don't you ask them this or that? Or remember this evidence rule? Or remember this rule? Objection, blah, blah. I've been in court for some trials, but those ended up going back because one guy, I'm sitting next to him, I'm his personal assistant. So we're going out to lunch breaks in the hallway. What's crazy is that the mother came to court and denied that she was with this boyfriend of hers. And he came and took the stand. I don't hang out with the mother. We're not together. We dated a long time ago, but not anymore. And then we go out to lunch and they're at the same restaurant and they're holding hands and the trial's going on. And the dad testified that he saw them. And then the judge turned it around and called them a stalker for taking pictures of them. And he didn't take pictures. I took pictures, or his friend did, and he didn't do it. But they said, oh, you're a stalker and blah, blah, blah. They didn't care that they lied. But he did a bad job presenting it because he froze up. And then he's talking to the judge and he gets off script and off the plan. And then he turns to me and goes, now what do I say? And I had to make a big show. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm just your assistant. So he didn't do it on purpose, but he's like asking me to give him some legal advice on the spot in the courtroom, which is a big no-no. And I wasn't going to technically do that. But the fact that he asked that and he was desperate and he got off script and he lost it, because he spent hours and hours in my office preparing. And he had a lot of stuff together. That guy eventually got custody because he kept at it and kept at it. Even though he lost his trial and had little visitation after that, he kept at it and kept at it. CPS got involved one time. And then he went to court on the other side of the state and he got full custody of all his kids. He was at war with that lady for about 12 years. That's why when you guys say, oh, I tried once, or I got killed at the hearing, I got people who won and they were willing to fight and be patient for 12 years. They went through hell and stuff. What is your excuse, bitch, for quitting on your kids so fast? Bertha, the father has been actively seeking involvement in his daughter's life. Mother is now homeless and has abandoned the child with grandma. Grandma was granted guardian, but filed in another county. I'm not sure if you're telling me that or you're telling somebody else that. I'm not sure where you're going with that. Maybe you're just telling your story. So Juan Mendez said, just try to get an order of protection because my baby's mom texted me the whole visitation, showed up an hour before pickup time where she knew we would be. I showed proof and was denied. Well, without knowing the details of your case, I don't know where you failed at or whether it was just a case of the judge was screwed you over. I got a guy who the mother renewed a protection order and he tried to vacate it and they wouldn't vacate it, so he appealed from the commissioner to the judge, and the judge vacated it, said you didn't get a chance to have a fair hearing. So he went back and did it again, and then somebody granted the restraining order. He's going back for reconsideration, so he's not giving up. So did you present the elements of domestic violence or elements that can't be domestic violence? It could be stalking, it could be harassment. At the very least, what I would do is I would turn it, like, you may have failed to present the elements. If you don't know what that is, then you need a consultation because you need to know the elements of any law. Just like with murder. If I'm a prosecutor and the person drove their car and spun out of control and hit and killed somebody, I cannot get murder because there's no premeditation. It's manslaughter. So in manslaughter and murder, you got, here's a dead body. I caused the dead body. In this case, I was chasing down a girlfriend who cheated on me in my car, and I wanted to hurt her, and she died. And I could prove that's enough to say I wanted to, the way I was chasing her down and the motive and stuff, you could say it was premeditated. If I'm driving in the snow and I slide out of control and hit somebody and they die, I don't have that premeditation. That was an accident. You got to know elements of stuff. But I'd be doing a reconsideration. I'd be adding the stuff that I missed. But also, you could say, this was harassing to me, and the mother's hovering over me like a psychotic stalker. And let's pretend you're, okay, and this is what I also do. Flipping the genders. I should do a video just on this. I need to write this down. Flipping the genders. I kind of said this before. You flip their logic on them. You write that down, flipping the genders. So you say, okay, look, you said that that's okay and there's no restraining order. So what you're doing is, I can go to the mother's house and sit out on the street for an hour and just watch her through the window if the window is open, an hour before visitation. See, when you do it, they don't like it. It's kind of like when black folks wanted guns when they were freed from slavery. Like, okay, I want a gun. Oh, wait, not you guys. Everybody has a right for guns, but not you guys. See, when, the racist folks would say, black folks are going to overthrow the country, or they're going to kill everybody, or rape all the white women. Well, everybody has a right to a gun, except you guys, the people we're afraid of. Or you Japanese citizens, you can't walk around America during World War II freely. We're afraid that you're a spy. So we're going to put you in internment camps. See, when you flip it around, they didn't care because the woman's not that much of a threat because she's the weaker sex or whatever. But if you take their logic and say, okay, if I go to the house or if I meet an hour before and I got binoculars and it's a public place, I can sit there and watch for an hour. And what was the other thing you said she did? So I could sit out. Like if they're at a park, I could sit in the parking lot and watch them in binoculars and text them the whole time. What are you doing? Hey, don't put them on the swing like that, this and that. Under that logic, you could do that. And I'm going to tell my judge, you know what? I'm going to do a video on YouTube and I'm going to tell people, look what this judge ruled. You guys can follow your baby's mom around for an hour leading up to the exchange and you can text them during the whole visit. Because that's what this judge said. And then I'm going to tell everybody at the courthouse, this is what your judge is saying. And then if I appeal it from a family law commissioner to a judge or somebody else, I'm going to tell them that this is what is being allowed. See, when you guys think and use common sense, you can come up with these arguments yourself. Flip the gender. But a lot of you guys don't think of this stuff. That's common sense. See how stupid I make it look when I say, oh, I could do that. They would never let a dad watch them for an hour and all that other stuff, just because the bigotry of dads are crazy. We're the stalkers. Women aren't. It's kind of funny if a woman if a teacher hits on a middle schooler, but if a man does it, that's obviously pedophilia, but women get away with it because they're not much of a threat, which is utter bullshit. Flip the gender around and say, according to your logic, then I can do this. Thank you for giving me permission to do it. And they'll say, wait a minute, you can't do that. Make them look stupid as possible. Father petition. Okay, so your birth is continuing with the story. Father petition against guardian, and the judge set a new date for the court to investigate. What tips could you give for his upcoming court date? I don't know. That's not enough. What tips for an upcoming court date? I can never give somebody tips for an upcoming court date with just a little bit of vague information like that. If he wants to learn how to do this stuff the right way, you need a consult with me. That's like saying, I'm out looking at my telescope at Jupiter. I can almost see the stripes in Jupiter, or let's say Mars. I can see Mars and it looks more reddish. How do I calculate how long it'll take to get to Mars and what it'll take to populate Mars and what structures we need? Like, I can't give you the whole, like a court hearing involves, it's a mini trial. You have so much information you're packing into a 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute argument. There's no way I could give you an answer on here, and I don't even have enough information here. This is where, if you want an answer on here, you got to be very specific to a specific issue after you've been diving into something. Like this guy who made the comment about, he told the story, he couldn't get a protection order. This is what the mother did, and this is with the elements of that. And then I said, flip that around. But we need to know more detail. He said, well, how do I prepare for a hearing where I do a reconsideration? Or how do I prepare for a hearing? So Juan should motion the court to set parameters that neither parent can go on each other's property, and you can't show up for an exchange until 5 minutes before the exchange, and put limits on it. You can at least get a temporary order in your parenting plan that puts restrictions if you can't win a restraining order. I meant to say that earlier. But to say a couple things about, the father's, I don't know enough about your case and what's wrong with the mother and what to use against her and stuff. Like, I need to know for a full hearing to know what tips to say at a court hearing. I have plenty of free videos for that kind of stuff. He's going to either have to watch my free videos and pick and find the topics that he wants, or if he wants precise, laser-like information, he's going to have to get a consult with me. Some of the stuff you need a consult. I don't know why. I don't know. There's some people who want, now I'm not saying Bertha did this, but I know some people, they'll text me after I get a consult. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that. Well, I need to know about this. Well, you need a consult. Well, dude, I already paid for a consult. Like, give me some information. They get pissed. And we're 20 minutes into me texting. Like, I might entertain a text while I'm just sitting watching TV. But you don't get full access to me forever because you had a consult with me. Just like you go to a doctor one time, that doesn't mean you have unlimited surgeries with them and you don't have to pay for shit. Only my gender does that stupid welfare mentality, entitled diva bitch stuff. Now, I'm not saying that's what Bertha did. She's asking a sincere question, it sounds like. But realistically, I cannot give you the thorough advice. Like, I can't go off of that and base it off of what you told me. You may not have communicated something clearly. You might be missing something I need to know. I need to talk to that person who's involved in the case, especially, like, I had somebody talk to me today. And I talked to the dude's mom and his dad and his friend and maybe somebody else. I cannot have 5 different people texting me 5 different angles, give me 5 different strategies. We need to sit down and have a talk. That's common sense. You should want to get a consult with me if you give a shit about your kids. Now, maybe Bertha is watching and her son's not watching. I think you said the son, or you just said the father. So I don't know if you're a girlfriend or new wife or whatever. But I cannot possibly prep somebody for a hearing and give them all the tips they need with that much information. It's just impossible. In California, California. Read Family Code 3000 at 3044. If he doesn't have that down, then this father, if he doesn't have Family Code 3000 and 344 memorized, and he doesn't have certain case law in California, I have a link for him to look up case law. He should look up case law specific to his issues. If he doesn't know how to look up case law, and he's never read Family Code 3000 to 3044, it's 3010, 3011, 3020B specifically up to 3044. If he doesn't know that, have that stuff down, then he's lost and he needs a consult. Why did grandma remove child from count? Oh, that's, you guys are talking with each other. Yeah, Risky Business says, summarize your question better. I need that. It's a vague question. I can't answer vague questions on here. I need very specific. Okay, Joe Martin, here's somebody. I need help, so I filled an appeal to Lake County, Indiana, but didn't send it. I have till the 9th, but it seems like the courts want to keep it in-house. Should I send my appeal to Indianapolis anyhow? I have no idea what you're saying. I have no clue what your question is. I need help. You sound like you need you sound totally lost. If you're lost in the process of filing and serving and doing it in the proper court and venue, you're totally lost. You need a full-blown consult. Let me just try and see if I can get some other. I need help. Filed an appeal to Lake County, Indiana, but they didn't send it. So maybe you're saying they didn't send it to the Court of Appeals. See, I need more detail on this. I have until the 9th, but it seems like the courts want to keep it in-house. I don't know what that means. You can't keep an appeal in-house. If you're appealing something, you have to go to the Court of Appeals. And usually you file in the county a notice of appeal, and they pass that up to the Court of Appeals, and then you got to follow the rules of appellate procedure. If you're at this point and you're lost on the first step, you need a consult. The end. The father did not know they moved out of county, that went to child abduction and located then in another county. I'm not sure what you're saying on that, Bertha. Maybe you're talking with Risky. I saw you going back and forth with Risky Business. Joe Martin. Okay, anyway, so here's more about Joe. Anyway, they want me to wait to ask the judge in a pretrial, even though the judge violated my rights. Who's they? See, this is one thing. You guys got to get some self-awareness about this. I don't know you. If you say, hey, my baby's mom and the grandmother and their attorney, they all are conspiring against me, and then the judge, female judge, and then my other ex-girlfriend, they all ganged up in court. And then she said this. If you're saying 5 different women names, you said she, her, them, they, I have no idea who you're talking about. This is where, now, if you don't get an answer from me, it's no harm, no foul. But if you guys go into court and you start rattling off 20 different names and you said they, him, her, she, the judge does not know who the funk you're talking about. You need to have some self-awareness when you're talking to a total stranger. You don't go and talk to a stranger and say, hey, how you doing? Here's my resume and profile. Oh, you know my friend Bob. Well, we worked together over at IBM, and it was the same stuff that you guys have over here. I don't know your friend Bob. That would be stupid to say, you know my friend Bob. So when you're talking to a stranger, the stuff they don't know, you have to tell them what you're talking about so they know it. If you say them, here, her, and she, and they did it, and they did that, people do that all the time. I have no idea what the hell just because you know what you're talking about doesn't mean I have a freaking clue. That's a skill that most of you need to learn. Communicate what the F and who the F you're talking about when you're talking. So, Joe Martin says, anyway, they want me to wait to ask the judge. Okay, who's they? And if they want you to wait, why are you obeying somebody that wants you to wait? Know the law and know the court rules. If you're doing an appeal before your case is over, you cannot do an appeal. So it sounds like you're wrong with that. Oh, my constitutional rights it sounds like you might have a constitutional right. I didn't get due process. You have to wait until there's an order before you appeal problems with due process. The only exception to that is motion for an interlocutory decision, or in Washington State, we call it discretionary review, which I won, and I show you my winning order on that, where you go to the Court of Appeals and you ask them to come. You have your summons in your case and you have trial. Something happens in the middle, in between the bookends of your case. You're like, hey, you totally screwed up. This is utter bullshit. It happened in my relocation case where I was in court for 1.5 years. I talked to you guys about that earlier. There's total bullshit here, and it's way out of the range of normal procedure. And it violates this rule and this law of due process. I'm going to go up to the Court of Appeals and ask them to intervene in the middle of a court case. I don't have a right to appeal this. I have to wait till the end to appeal the final decision, and then I can automatically go to the Court of Appeals. But in the middle of a court case, I don't have a right to go to the Court of Appeals, but I can ask them in their discretion if they will come and intervene, because this ruling right here and now in the middle is so wild and out of control that we need Court of Appeals intervention, because it so far departs from the normal MO of the courts and public policy. I need intervention, and that's called an interlocutory decision or discretionary review. So the judge violated my rights and gave the mother more money when she isn't had the kids for 3 years. I don't even know what that means. Is that alimony? Is that child support? If she has the kids now, they can give her child support. So I'm not sure what you mean. You're not very clear or detailed about what you mean there. But if you're trying to appeal something, a temporary order in the middle of your case, if it's a final order, you have a right to automatically appeal final order. So if that's what you're doing, then great. If you don't know where to file or who to give it to, and they, them, and he, and sure, and it, and whatever are saying something about something, you're totally lost, and you need some detailed help. You need a consultation. And it'll at least get you in the right direction. If I don't know everything about everything, a lot of people say, hey, I'm in Pennsylvania. You ever dealt with somebody in Pennsylvania? First of all, I don't need to deal with anybody in Pennsylvania to know the war of attrition. The number one thing is the war of attrition. It's not memorizing the court's rules and laws. That stuff we can do by just going on the internet and figure it out. I don't need to have helped somebody in Pennsylvania to look up Pennsylvania's law and read the laws and tell you what the law said, or whatever state you're in. The skill that I bring more than anything is the war of attrition. Everybody's caught up. Here's what the law says. All the law, do what the law says. Steve Maeda, he's on that right now. So he's in the stage of going, pro se is full of shit. You can't win pro se, to, oh, yeah, you can win pro se. Okay, but you have to know the laws, and that's all it is. No, it's the war of attrition, dude. Catch up. You've been at this for years. I've been at, see, let me, at the risk of looking braggadocious, I've been at this since 2001. I'm a 5-star general in the War on Fathers. I don't know everything about every situation. I don't know all the case law, but no attorney knows everything about everything. We have so many laws in the books, nobody even knows what they all are, and they can't count them. So people can shut the F up, like, well, you don't know anything about this and that. I don't know everything about everything, but I got my kid, and I've helped thousands of people get their kids. The end. That's all you need to know. And if anybody's been at this for 5 or 10 years or 15 years, you don't know shit compared to me most of the time. And you should respect somebody who's been around. When Barry Sanders was playing with the Detroit Lions, no rookie running back got in there and said, I'm the shit and I'm going to take Barry's starting. You better shut the F up and sit down, rookie. But guys don't know how to do that. And we'll do it in the workplace. We'll do it with our buddies. They'll do it in the sports world. Look at how, and it's crazy, women cannot. Look at how people, like Michael Jordan has a bad relationship with Isaiah Thomas, but for the most part, people are like, damn, this Michael Jordan guy, this is nothing like we've ever seen. He took the NBA by storm like Dr. J took it. When Magic and Bird came in, this is nothing that we've ever seen. This is more entertaining. Michael Jordan took it, like Charles Barkley says, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird saved the NBA. Michael Jordan made basketball international. Just think if he had social media back when he was playing, it would have been crazy. But everybody gives Jordan his props. Now, the younger generation, they shit on Jordan a little bit because LeBron's the man or Kobe or whatever, because they never watched Jordan. But if you watch all these, I'll watch a lot of Jordan's mixtapes, and people will go on YouTube and they'll do a review of Jordan's mixtape, just like people will do a review of movies or a review of a song back in the 70s. One of my favorites is Jamel Jamal. Brit Reacts. They're reacting to songs that they didn't listen to growing up because they listened to R&B or jazz or hip hop, and they're looking at the Doobie Brothers or Journey or Seals and Croft or whatever. And it's kind of fun seeing younger generation or people who didn't watch that stuff react to that. But there's people who react to Jordan and they're LeBron fans. Just type in LeBron fan reacts to Jordan mixtape or Larry Bird. And some of those LeBron fans are saying, man, Larry Bird might be better than LeBron. And they would never have said that before. But the NBA players recognize Bird or Michael Jordan and give them their props. They don't hate on them like these WNBA women are hating on Caitlin Clark. Or delusional bitches like, I forget the girl who just got hurt. Like, pay us what we earn. Or the bug-eyed bitch who looks like Sid from Ice Age. Caitlin Clark's nemesis. Like Aries Spears said, that she's about as coordinated as a newborn giraffe. God, what is her name? Angel Reese. The women are hating on somebody who's talented and that brought attention to their league when nobody gave a shit. Even women didn't give a shit. That's what's crazy. Women are like, men, you need to come and support us. Women don't support you, you stupid airheaded bitches. And then I've been doing this all these years. I help people win. I show testimonies. All I need to do is show you one order, my court order that I got custody. And some people say, well, you didn't win. You beat her down. She surrendered and settled. That's how 95% of cases go, nuts. If 1,000 dads got full custody and 950 of them got them by settling out of court, would you shit on them and say, well, you got your kid another way? I went to trial and got my kid, so I earned it. Both of you got your kid, you numbnuts, gay little drama queen, mother effing bitch. The end goal is getting your kids. And I got haters who hate on me, and I got what they want. The ones hating on me aren't seeing their kids. It's the most amazing effed up shit you will ever see in your life. That's like somebody who has a kid who's kidnapped or being sex trafficked. And you come to some group where they're like, when you stop sex trafficking and somebody said, I've been coming to these meetings, they finally found my kid, and you being mad and hating at them for getting the kid found. Like, you would be hurt that your kid's not found yet, but you wouldn't hate on somebody who got their relationship with their kid restored. What the hell is wrong with my gay ass gender? You know? So, Joe, I don't know how to answer you. They want me to wait to ask the judge. I assume that you're trying to do an appeal in the middle of a case. You cannot do that. So you sound totally lost. And that's not derogatory. You just don't know what you're doing. You need to learn. When you do something, you need to know everything about it. If you're going to shoot a gun, you need to know everything about it. You can't only know how to pull the trigger. You need to know how to squeeze and get ready and then hit it. You know? You need to know how to change a bullet system. I don't know anything about guns for the most part, except a couple basics. But I mean, it's ideal if you know how to take it apart and put it back together. That's how soldiers do it. If you're a soldier and you don't know how to do that, you might be screwed in certain situations. If you're driving, if you're taking a driving test, you don't just get to know how to step on the gas and change and hit your blinker. You have to know how to steer right away, use all the hand signals, and back around the corner and parallel. You need to know it all. So if you're going to do something in court, you need to know everything about it. If I'm going to play chess, I don't get to only know how the king moves. I have to know how the queen, the rook, the pawns, the bishop, and the, what am I missing? Rook, bishop, the knight knows how to move. This is common freaking sense. You know, maybe Joe studied that stuff or whatever, but I'm speaking to people in these situations. Okay. Sorry about that. My phone's getting hot, so I'm going to put the AC on. I don't know how loud this is going to be to you guys, but I got to put the AC on or it'll die. I want to get to everybody's questions here. Dang, the AC is warm. Judge, oh, okay. So, Joe, you got more specific later. You guys got to get to the main point at the end. I do not need the whole background story and lead up. I need the specifics and right to the point of your question. And then I can ask and go back and forth with you. If you tell me the whole history and story and you start talking about he, him, they, and she, and the pet, and the dog, and I'm lost. The judge wouldn't let me cross-examine my witness. So, okay, so it sounds like you had trial, so you are doing an appeal. You said something about the middle of the case before trial or something. You probably need a consult. And if you don't get answers from one of these sessions, like if somebody has a quickie question and they know stuff and they had no 9 out of 10 things, that's what this forum is appropriate for. When you already know something, you need something specific. If you're totally lost and you're starting from scratch, or you're on the next thing or an appeal or a modification and you're totally lost on that, you need a consult. And to be honest, everybody needs a consult with me. There's no way you can have a consult with me and I don't know what to say to you because you know everything. That's impossible. That's never, ever happened. I've had people who were smarter than me on stuff and I still gave them information that they didn't know about. People who've been in and out of court for 5, 10 years and they did all kinds of legal research. They knew stuff that I didn't know. And that's what I hope people will get to. I hope they get to that point. But there's no way you can have two meetings of the minds and people who, I don't know, mechanics who've both been mechanics for 12 years, and one of them bounces an idea off the other. Oh, I never thought about doing that. I never thought about doing a tune-up that way. I never thought about doing this or that or whatever. The judge wouldn't let me cross-examine my witness. Well, you don't get to cross-examine your own witness. This is where you need to know the basic rules of trial. You have a witness, you put them on the stand, they get to cross-examine, you get to recross. So I don't know if you're talking about recross or not. That's why when you guys ask me questions and when you talk or when you say something in court, I've talked to people about depositions. You know what a deposition is? Yeah, and I'm talking about a deposition. And they're like, well, when they write the affidavit or declaration, I said, dude, I said deposition. This is where people can't listen to. And guys got to develop a skill above retardation. If I say eel and elephant, both of them have the letter E's in them and a couple times, and they have the letter L in them. That doesn't mean it's the same thing. Listen to what I'm saying, eel or elephant. If I say deposition or declaration, those are two long words that begin with D. That doesn't mean they're the same word. This is where dads will just have like halfway paying attention, like, oh yeah, I know that. It's 7 p.m. What is your court order? And we go ahead in the court order, and it says 8 p.m. How are you? Well, she used to come early, and we talked about, okay, you still need to get off your freaking lazy punk ass and read your court order. If you have a job, you have a contract that's how much you're going to get paid. Sorry about that. No one is ever confused about their salary. How the hell are you confused about the time you spend with your kid? That's some dumbass, retarded, gay ass shit that you don't know what your court order says to govern your life with your kids. That's some inexcusable, stupid ass bullshit. And you're freaking retarded and lazy as fuck. There's no excuse for that bullshit. When I see court pleadings from the mother when I go to court, I don't like reading them, but I read every single word because I'm in attack mode because I'm in a war. If I'm shooting bullets at somebody, I don't go, oh my God, they shot back at me. Let me stop firing against them. I'm in a war. I'm going to read all the stuff they say. I'm going to read the court order. I'm going to pick it apart and know it. There's so many dads out there, they don't read their own shit. How the hell are you going to enforce a court order you don't know what it is? Or call me and say, I got a complaint. She's not doing this and that. What does the court order say? Oh, I don't know. How the fuck do you not know what your court order says that governs your life with your kids? That's inexcusable. Okay, so you didn't cross-examine the witness. You can't cross-examine your own witness. The judge refused to answer my question on turning in my evidence. She said she couldn't answer because it's favoritism. Well, you got to know the rules when you go in there. And if a judge won't answer your question, then you say, what are the rules for everybody on turning in my evidence? Now, if you're asking the judge, how do I present evidence and how do I say it during here? Like, you're not clear here. So you just got done talking about a witness on the stand. You said turn in evidence. Does that mean before trial or does that mean when you're trying to get evidence admitted? It sounds like getting evidence admitted and turned in are things that are in the rules that are laid out clearly somewhere. So you didn't find the actual rule. You guys have to know everything about everything. The judge is not there to work for you. They expect you to figure out the rules of procedure and how to do everything yourself. And if you don't know how to do it, then you're expected to get an attorney. And that's what an attorney's job is, to help people do stuff that they don't know how to do. Just like you have a coach or a mentor or a personal trainer, because you may not know how to do it at first, and then you learn how to do it yourself, and great. But it sounds like you expected the judge to give you some legal advice or information that they could have said that to you. Or if you asked it in a way like, tell me how to do this. If they said favoritism, say, Your Honor, the other side knows how to do this. It's the rules of the court. Can you tell me where the rules are on this? Because if there's no rule on it, that means it's a free-for-all. You got to know how to answer and cleverly respond to that. But I don't know if you watch my videos before your trial, but if you had a trial and you knew about me and you didn't get prepped for trial, I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of people out here who go to something like trial, or they have a court hearing and they wait until their ass gets handed to them and they're behind the 8 ball and on supervised visitation. And if they would have talked to me ahead of time, they would have won their hearing, or they wouldn't have got behind that bad. Now, I don't know if Joe did that or not, but again, he's making me think about what a lot of people do. It triggered an idea or thought. A lot of you are out here, you're about to go to court and get a temporary order, and it will govern your life for your kid until trial, and it will have momentum going into trial and set the tone of your case. And you don't give a shit to get expert opinion or insight or some guidance from somebody like me or anybody else before you go in there. Who the fuck does that? Only my gender and family court. If you're going to go for a driving test, you go to driver's ed. If you're going to enroll in a world-class chess tournament and all you've ever played is checkers, you will practice chess and read the rules. How the fuck does my gender, and I'm not talking about Joe, because he just doesn't know a couple things about a couple things, but that just triggered me to think a lot of people go in not knowing everything about stuff, and they've been watching my videos and know I'm a great source, and there's something mentally wrong with my fucking gender that says, oh, I can walk into court because I watched some of James' videos. I didn't learn everything, but I don't give a shit because I'm too lazy and I don't want to pay James for some extra advice to help me rescue my kids because they're not worth it to me. So I'll just go into court because I assume the court's going to do whatever's just. And you've been watching a million testimonials of people getting screwed in family court, so you would think you would have a sense of urgency to want to learn everything. I shouldn't even have to be explaining this to people. But I have to do it all the time. Why? Because 99% of people are full of shit. They want somebody else to do it for them. They want the judge to make the just and right ruling. You know attorneys out there who are experts in criminal defense or whatever? They work their ass off before a trial. They pull all-nighters. Watch the movie A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. Watch how Tom Cruise and Demi Moore and that other guy are sitting there studying and preparing. They don't say, oh, well, I already know the law. Let me just waltz in there. Only my friggin' faggot-ass gender doesn't give a shit about their kids, so much so that they'll just waltz into trial and they'll half-ass and like, oh, I know I need to have evidence. I know I need to have witnesses. I'll just show up in court with witnesses. Well, you were supposed to put them on a witness list so the other side had a chance to depose them. Do you know that? Oh, what does depose mean? How the hell are you going to go into somebody's other arena and play a game when you don't know the first thing about the effing rules? Now, obviously, Joe Martin, he put on his trial, and so he knew a lot of stuff. But I'm talking about the guys who don't want to prepare and don't want to learn every single thing that they need to know. And some guy, you need to know every single possible thing that you can going into somewhere. And if, like, in Joe Martin's situation, you ask the judge something, they say, well, that wouldn't be fair. You don't get to say, oh, I don't like your answer, so I'm not going to go look it up. You go find the answer yourself. But there's some guys, they don't even want to. They just walk into trial, and they have their preconceived notion about how trial works. And in their own narcissistic, diva, welfare, entitled, bitch-ass mind, they think, well, I'll just walk in there, and I'll just tell my story. You dumbass mother effer, your life with your kid is on the line, and you didn't even look into the rules or how court operates. The easiest, most obvious thing is to go into a court and watch and see what they do. And they're like, oh my God, there's so many things I have to learn. Let me go study them. Let me go talk to somebody. Well, I've been watching James' videos for 3 years. I don't give a shit about getting ready for trial, but it looks really bad for me. So maybe I should start giving a shit about my kid. You know, when people think I'm an asshole talking about this, but when the stuff I'm talking about, you are a complete, utter dumbass if you think you deserve your kids, but you don't have to prepare to fight for them. Oh, it's not fair and I shouldn't have to fight. That's correct. You shouldn't have to fight for stuff. There shouldn't be murder. There shouldn't be child trafficking. There shouldn't be theft. But guess what? That's in the world. So people have guns in their home and they lock their doors. It'd be nice if we can leave our doors unlocked at night and leave the door open and the screen door closed so we can get a breeze every night. But it's a bad world and people do bad things, you stupid, dumbass motherfucker. Wake the fuck up, bitches. I have to talk like this because my dumbass gender, they'll go and watch Dad Talk Today and they'll think, oh yeah, this guy says the court system is biased, so be ready when you go to court. But he doesn't tell me jack shit, so I waltz into court and got my ass handed to me. And now me and Dad Talk, the Carlos dude, fat bitch ass simp in there, you know, his baby's mom is on Facebook talking about him being a narcissist and stuff. And he might be, because when I told him, the Dad Talk Today guy, I DM'd and I said, dude, all you talk about is negative testimonies. Why don't you go in there and have some winning stories from some people to give some people hope? He blocked me for telling him that. That guy's forever a punk ass faggoty bitch for that. He blocked me for asking, why don't you have positive stories of dads? And I didn't even say, hey, have me on. Have anybody on. All your 100% of his stories are dad lost child support, dad lost restraint, or dad committed suicide, dad got screwed in court. That's all he talks about. House slave, faggoty little bitch. No hope, no answers, because he got his ass handed to him. Or maybe he's a narcissistic bitch like his ex-wife says on Facebook. Anyway, I'm rambling on. The short of it is, learn everything you need to know about everything before you go to court. If there's anything you go over like, I'm not sure if I know how to do this, get the answer. The end. It's pretty simple. That is a weird answer. I got to give that to you, Joe. That's a stupid ass weird answer. Oh, I can't give it to you because of favoritism. That's her stupid ass perception of the law or of her duty. And if you know the code of judicial conduct, you should say this is a court of fairness and equity. They already know. I don't know. Why don't you just tell us? It's the rule for the court. See, when you know all the rules and stuff, you know how to combat stuff. But when people go in there and they say, okay, when I'm in this situation, these are the words I say. Instead of understanding the whole total right and the doctrine and having full understanding of it, you memorize this or that or the other. So when somebody comes from a weird angle, you don't know what to say because you memorized an answer to this one question. Instead, you should learn the doctrines and legal principles and common law and all that stuff. So then no matter what angle they come, well, this is my right. This is a court of equity. This is a court of fairness. You have a duty of care and responsibility of this. You're supposed to accommodate pro se's a little bit. Some courts have case law like that. You might have that in your state. You might not. I don't know. Okay, let me get on. Okay. The guardian would be looking at possible damages for that. Okay, so you guys are talking to each other. Find your equivalent California law, custody interference. California does have a custody interference law. I do have, if that's what you guys are talking about, I have a link to it in my flow page. Bertha's back. The mother's homeless somewhere in the city and unable to locate. She doesn't come to court. So what is the father to do? And meanwhile, he's losing time with his daughter. The mother's homeless somewhere in the city. What does the mother's absence have to do with the case? I thought, weren't you saying that somebody else has custody? What does the mother have to do with anything? The father should go to court and go for full custody. If he's not getting on the fence and going for full custody, he's not even trying the right way. If you're saying you need to locate the mother to serve her to have a court hearing, that's her problem. Serve her at her last known address. Learn the rules of service. You serve at the last known address. That's considered service. That's what child support gets away with all the time. Or you can serve by publication. That's in the rules. But it sounds like your son, you have so many questions about so many things. Your son, if he, or I'm sorry, I don't know if this is your son. So Bertha, whatever you're talking about, the father, your friend, your brother, your cousin, whatever, he needs to learn everything. He sounds totally lost. And you can't ask questions on YouTube and get a couple answers and he's not lost anymore. If he's totally lost, he needs to learn everything that he needs to learn. Okay, so Bertha, that's your fiance. That dude needs to learn everything. He sounds totally lost. Okay, so he needs a guardian. Okay, you said he just wants to see his daughter. Okay, that's not good enough. You don't win in court saying, I just want to see my daughter. There's a lot of guys that have that disposition. I just want to see my daughter. I want to be a father. You're being falsely accused. You're being framed. You don't get to say, I just want to see my daughter. If somebody's a pedophile and you say, I just want to see my daughter, you don't win because you're a pedophile. If they're lying about him, if they're frustrating the process, if they're kicking the can down the road, he needs to learn how to overcome all that stuff. This is where you got to get emotions out of the way. Oh, I'm a good father. I should have this. I should have that. Fathers shouldn't have to fight for it. Guys say, fathers shouldn't have to fight for his rights that are inherently given by God or his natural rights. No shit, Sherlock. But we're in a corrupt world. We shouldn't have to lock the door at night. We shouldn't have to protect our daughters. There shouldn't be child trafficking, but there's 1 million kids that go missing every year. Or we're going to sit here and say, oh, kids shouldn't be kidnapped, so we're not going to look for them? The fuck? So she's a sweet little girl. I love her. I don't understand what the issue is with these people. You don't have to understand. You guys have to wake up and realize you're in a war in an evil system. That courthouse is a tunnel toward that kid. And on the other side of that tunnel is the kid. And he has to go through that ugly tunnel. I liken it to like an Indiana Jones movie. Indiana Jones is looking for a treasure. Whether it was one of the movies, it was the cup of Christ that he drank at the Last Supper, the Ark of the Covenant. I don't know what it was in the other movies. So he has a treasure with an invaluable, priceless treasure he's going for. And he's going through these obstacles and tunnels and snakes and booby traps and all this stuff and fighting murderers and killers because of the prize at the end. I have to be bluntly honest. All this emotional stuff is not what I help people with. I'm not here to give you answers to why the universe is evil or the world is evil. I know why it is biblically, But I'm not here to answer why this is unfair and why it hurts and why it sucks and he just wants to be a good dad. There's a way for him to get custody of his kid. He needs to go for that. There's no guarantee that he'll win. But if he doesn't do that and he wants to sit around and mope about what's wrong with the system and I don't understand this and only half-ass learn a couple of things, he will lose. Your fiance needs to get a sense of urgency to learn everything he can. That information is available to him. And I'm not sure if you're in California or Texas because you keep going back and forth in there. But I've had guys get custody, get 50-50, fight restraining orders in California and in Texas. I have a guy, he got an offensive, did a deposition. Mom was going to take his kid from Texas to Illinois, and he was barely ever going to see the kid again. She offered like visitation in Illinois like a few times a year. He did a deposition and did what I said and got off his ass and got on the offensive. And the mother settled on 50-50 immediately after that, 2 weeks later. It doesn't matter whether it was fair or not. He got his kid. He played the unfair route and fought over the obstacles that were unfair. And he whined and cried about it, which is understandable. But you can't sit around and just talk all day about, I don't understand, I don't get it, this is not fair, why do they do this, what's going on, go get your kid. Learn how to get your kid. It's as simple as that. It's the harsh reality. We don't have time to discuss who, what, where, when, and why. You're in a corrupt system. Go get your kid. If you fell into a pit full of snakes and there's a way to crawl up the wall and there's little holes and there's a shovel, you wouldn't sit there and say, man, this is so unfortunate I fell in this pit of snakes. I'm just going to sit here because I shouldn't have fallen in here and I don't want to have to exert my energy and blood, sweat, and tears to climb out of here. So I'll just sit here and die from snake bites. You would grab that shovel and the unfortunate, or maybe somebody pushed you in. That wasn't fair. You wouldn't mope about why it wasn't fair. You're in a dangerous situation. Get out. You have to have a sense of urgency with this stuff. And maybe you do. I just don't see it. This is why it's hard to answer questions on here. But I will answer them if somebody has a specific situation that you know a lot about and you just are missing this, that, or the other. If you're in here saying, I'm totally lost, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do, you need a consult. My laws are more restricted due to military vet and governing laws, so I'd make sure, Bertha, that you elaborate and finalize your question, what your goal is, the problem at hand. Sound like service is a problem with the mother, or that she's hiding. I don't know how the mother abandoning the kid is in a guardianship case, which it sounds like it is a problem. If I'm way off, then I'm lost in your questioning and he needs a consult. Iraq veteran laughed at me saying dry hump. Family court is redonkulous as hell. Oh, ridiculous. Okay. I think he was Dex from last night. Yeah. Oh, here comes the faggot Dex. I'm not even going to answer him and look at his stuff. Okay, you guys can watch Dex all you want. I'm going to ignore that dude because that gay bitch said I didn't have custody and I got my kid. And he wants to live in a world of fake fantasy. Oh, here's all these legal theories that apply sometimes and then the courts ignore them most of the time. And I want to win that these theories are great theories. And yeah, he's right about some of the legal theories. But I get people their kids, and I care about parents loving their kids. Dex is a faggot who thinks dad should abandon their kids and not pay child support, from what I could tell. Iraq veteran. Okay. Look at this is the only comment of Dex I looked at. So just so you guys know, this Dex guy, he's a tranny female because he has so much feminine energy. He must have been raised by a single mom and he's got daddy issues like a little feminine gay bitch. And I grew up being a beta most of my life. I had 3 sisters. My dad was there, but he's an alcoholic, so he was there, but not there. But Dex said I don't have custody. His little minutia about, he wants to win an argument because he's a feminine male with an ego. And so he wants to win. I want to be right. I want to be right about all these legal principles. And I want you to acknowledge and bow down to Zod, James. I don't give a shit about your stupid ass legal principles. I got my daughter. If me and 1,000 dads got our kids, and you want to tell us, hey, here's a legal principle, you should have brought them in court. We don't give a shit. We got our kid, you stupid numbnuts bitch. And so Dex said I didn't have custody, and he said, well, if you don't have custody because the state's telling you what to do. The state didn't tell me jack shit to do. I freely had a life with my daughter without anybody interfering, anybody stopping me and telling me, no, I was dragged in and out of court by a crazy attorney. And there's things I could have avoided, but there's things I wanted to learn. And I ended up in jail because I objected to my baby's mom's contempt. And they threw me in jail because I didn't show up at a hearing, but I wasn't served. And so I could have got out of that, but I wanted to make a point about certain things. And I ended up, winning a bunch of points. I did it the hard way. And now I have a lesson that was learned that I could share with other people. And so I got a little bit more street cred about going through certain things that other people have gone through. But so Dex said James didn't get custody. I got custody. I showed him my windows. But then he said James is a cokehead. I never been drunk or on any drug my entire life. So this is what females do. Females, and as you guys know, think about your crazy baby mama. When you go to court and your crazy baby mama says, well, the father's this, and the father was mad at me, and he raised his voice, which means he's going to kill me, and they gaslight you. And then they say, because he's a potential murderer, he needs a psych eval. I mean, they said a lie, and then upon that lie, they built a whole argument. And they couldn't have possibly known, like, you're hypothetically going to kill somebody because you raised your voice one time. Dex doesn't know me. I'm going off of, like I do in any argument or disagreement, I'm going off of the words of somebody or the conduct I know about them. I'm arguing with Dex about his words. This faggot drama queen, fruity little gay, thong-wearing, mark-ass bitch of a simp, he's just sitting here saying, James doesn't have custody. James is a cokehead and making up stuff he can't possibly know about me. And I'm calling him a faggot little bitch because he's acting just like a woman. And so I don't know the dude, but he's acting like a woman because women will make up a lie about somebody's character and personality, and they can't logically argue a logical civil debate. They can't do that. They throw out ad hominems. And the greatest, oldest debate trick, the Greek philosopher said this: when you're losing an argument, you attack the other person because you distract everybody. What was the argument that you were losing? What was the logical, deductive reasoning of that? Oh, wait, this guy's an asshole. This guy, James, is a cokehead. James doesn't have custody. And we're over here, and here's James's whole resume and all this other stuff. And you forgot about that because you threw a gaslighting drama queen stuff. And talking to people like this, when you have a man who's a faggot ass bitch like this thong wearing little mark ass hoe bitch, who's part of the feminization of men, single mom raised dudes who can't control their emotions and they don't have logical deductive reasoning, they engage in ad hominem attacks and they think they're winning because he can't just come to an agreement and say, you know what, James, I'm right about this stuff. And yeah, the court doesn't do anything about it. He's like, I won my child support administrative hearing. I got a dismissal. Worship me, ride my dick, ride my jock because I need attention because I'm a attention whore, has daddy issues, because I'm a faggot ass bitch like my sisters and my mom who I grew up with because I didn't have a dad. So let me make sure if there's anything else I missed. There's a bunch of faggot Dex. Let's see. Freedom Foundation. Wow, perfect examples exactly. How can we prepare for court? What should be filed on our behalf? Freedom Foundation says, how do we prepare for court? What should be found on our behalf? I have a lot of videos where I talk about the 4 things you need to know going into court. The law and case law. The science and data if you're a father dealing with statistics about fathers. You need to learn some arguments about how to tug at the judge's heartstrings. And then as far as evidence supporting your argument, how much evidence should you bring in and what evidence should you bring in? The answer is one word: everything. If you're trying to show a bond between you and your kids, there's text messages. There's declarations from family who saw you being a good dad. There's video. There's letters from the mother before you had conflict. You're such a great dad. Everything. That's the short answer of that. How to prepare for court? Learn all the civil rules that apply, learn all the law that applies, learn all the case law that applies, learn the statutes that applies, and then learn the science, have your evidence, and be able to tug at the judge's heartstrings. So that's kind of 8 things. But as far as legal things, you need to know the state and local civil rules. You need to know the statutes. Case law is a nice bonus. Statutes, case law, local rules, civil rules, and then the court forms. So you got to have the right forms. And that's an extremely broad category. Like, that's like saying, what do I need to know before my driving test? You need to know everything. You need to know how to step on the gas, brake, shift gears, back around a corner, parallel park. And with each one of those categories, there's a lesson within there. So if you're not ready going into court and knowing the details of this stuff, you need a consultation with me. The average person takes about 5 hours to master everything, or at least have, you really need to put a bunch of hours in. Like Steve Maeda even says, you got to work your ass off and learn all this stuff. Go look at a law library. There's a million books in there. There's no way to learn that with me answering one question on a text or a comment on YouTube. Yeah, so as far as evidence, what should be filed on our behalf? What should be filed is every piece of evidence, every statement, every declaration from everybody possible, all relevant evidence, pictures, diaries, text messages, emails, everything that makes you look good and make the other side look bad. That's the short of it. All the details of that, I have I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube, or you get a consult with me. That's the short of that. So, Dex must be a boomer. They love all cats. Hey, I'm a boomer. I'm 55, so isn't that boomer age? I think Dex is a kid or a younger person. He doesn't have any manly energy at all. It's all feminine and from a millennial kid type of thing. What's this all caps thing you guys are talking about? That's Dex putting every single sentence in all capitals because he's an attention whore female. You know, modern females, they talk about how they go on Instagram, they get attention from a bunch of thirsty, ugly, fat, desperate dudes who can't get a woman. And so they build themselves up. They think they're a 10 and they're really a 5. Go watch Kevin Samuels and see all these fat, ugly, nasty looking chicks who call themselves 9s and 10s on his show. It's because social media gives you a dopamine hit when you get attention on social media. That's what Dex is looking for, like a little fag. So anyway, if you search a winner, what are you doing here with all these losers? That is like Dex is obsessed with proving that he knows a bunch of knowledge to a bunch of us losers. Like I said, that's only what a drama queen female. I'm not even looking at his comments. I'm commenting on 2 ones that I happen to stop on, but I've happily paid James hundreds of dollars and have won too. Thanks for that. See Robin's fly. Scroll up, Joe, Dex blasting, chat with all cat. Okay. Hey, risky, yes, they have e-file. I'm looking to see, I'm at work and don't see yourself. Okay. I'm looking for, Kiko says, preach, brother. I'm not sure which one you're talking about because I think I'm way behind. See, Robbins, are you talking to Dex? Dex called you a slave and you work from home. Yeah. Okay. A. Thomas, dude, the WNBA is saying they have record viewership. That's only because they never been televised before. Right. I watched the WNBA game. I don't watch that. Like, the only thing that interests me, and look at this. NBA players left and right are saying, I'm watching the WNBA. I saw Kevin Garnett on his podcast saying, man, I know more girl basketball players because of Caitlin Clark and how college basketball is exciting right now than I do men players. And he's been retired, 10 years or 15 years maybe? The NBA men are giving her so much. Charles Barkley said the WNBA could not have effed this up more. Those bitter bitches are hating on Caitlin Clark. She's like a Steph Curry, Kyrie type of player, doing stuff that no women have done, like Pistol Pete coming on in the NBA with all his tricks and moves and stuff like that. Nobody's had a man-like game that looked compared. That's why Ice Cube wanted to have them in the three, have her on in the big three, have a contract with that because she looked like an entertainer. Now she might have got shut down, and maybe they would have had to let her, whatever, who knows, but. In any case, if you watch Bill Burr comment on WNBA, that guy's on point with it. That record viewership, yeah. Looking to see if there's any more questions. Hey, Thomas. James, man, I need a console. I think I have the most effed up case you've ever seen. Everybody says that. The worst case I've ever seen is somebody going to prison, falsely accused of molestation, and that's one that I read in the paper, and he's a Clark County sheriff in Washington. His daughter admitted later to lying about molestation because she was mad at him. The last 4 layers I contacted ever seen my docket sheet, they won't call me back. The last 4 layers, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Dang, Dex is an obsessed gay stalker. For someone, when you're a boy in elementary school and you like a girl, but you're confused, you're coming into, pre-puberty, and you're like, I got feelings for girls, but I don't want to look like a wimp, and I want to be tough in front of my boys. I remember there's a girl that I liked, and she liked me, and the dudes would make fun of her, and then later on in the school year, I saw them all jocking her on recess. And I was a little hesitant to put myself out. I was scared of girls in elementary school. I didn't know what to do because I didn't want to be fake and put up a front and have lines or whatever. But when you're in elementary school, you like a girl and you tease her because you like her. You pull on her ponytails or whatever because you like her, but you act obsessed with her and talk about her because you like her, but you have to play it tough. That's like Dex. Like, he has a gay stalker obsession with me. And he's commenting a million times more than anybody. All I see is this red. I'm not even looking at his stupid ass shit. Lars88, full custody. Did you get full custody? Or are you saying that's what we go for? That is what every dad should go for. If your mom spent $140,000 trying to get sole custody, but drives a $750 car, can I file something on that? If your kid's mom spent $140,000 trying to get full custody, but drives a $750, can I file something on that? I'm not sure what you mean. File something on what? What would you, I don't know what's the point? What are you trying to prove? That she spent all that money and she's not spending it on the kid? You need to know the factors in the law in your state. If you're in Montana, you say Montana child custody, best interest child factors. And you look at the factors. In Washington, it says, whichever parent performs parenting functions the most is the one should have custody, or the court has to consider those factors on determining who gets what. If you didn't do any of the parenting duties or parenting functions, the court can say you refuse to perform parenting functions, you neglected to perform them. What are parenting functions? Well, there's a definition of them. This is why you guys got to read carefully. Once you learn the law, you should read every single freaking word of it. If you're in Washington, I give you links to laws and I tell you what sections to use in different states. So I might have a link for your state. But a lot of states say which parent is willing to facilitate a relationship with the other parent, which parent looks out for the child first, which parent provides financial support. If that's a factor in your laws, you can say, look, the mother doesn't provide financial support. She'll spend $140,000 getting control of the kids, but then won't provide for them. That would be an argument if that's where you're going. I'm not sure where you're going. I think that's what you're saying. So hopefully that's an answer if you're still here. Panslayer, what's your opinion on AI like ChatGPT? Does it help with understanding these legal cases? You understanding the cases depends on your time that you study and listen to them. But I've never used AI, but I have friends and people that are scholars or people that have used ChatGPT to write letters to attorneys to start off the first rough draft of their brief or their motion, and then you tweak it. Hey, ChatGPT, write up or a motion for contempt. I missed visitation. On 12 days, I get every other weekend from Friday at 7 p.m. to Sunday at 7 p.m. I need a contempt motion for Nebraska, blah, blah, blah. Boom, there you go. And then it's got a great jump start. It just saved you 5 hours. Now you just spend the next 5 hours tweaking it. You would have taken 10 hours. So, Chad, that's a good question, Pan Slayer. Chat GPT, it's like it does with anything else. It's a shortcut for research to give you answers way faster. So, does it help with understanding these legal cases? So like I said, for you understanding, you got to read and absorb it yourself. Chat GPT just gets you the information faster for you to study, or it will write a letter to an attorney. Like I actually have a personal friend of mine that, she bounces stuff off of me all the time because she's in court, and she uses Chat GPT all the time. And then she'll say, hey, I wrote the letter to this attorney and they didn't respond. And what do you think? And then she reads the letter to me over the phone or we talk or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, you wrote that yourself? She goes, no, I had Chat GPT. Like, how much did you tweak it? Only like one sentence. So I haven't used it because I already got years of accumulated notes and samples and things like that I work off of and use. And I'll go out and find updated case law on an issue. Or I have packets in my store with some stuff that's just worked over and over for people for 2 decades. But I really would like to get on doing videos on each topic. There's probably like at least 10 topics that are common. Like, where do I start? Like, you get blind. I'm thinking about having categories of Zoom online classes or virtual class, or just I have a video on the evidence rules in my store. I would like to do a video like that for all these different topics. Where do I get started when I'm lost? So I would give you the basics. Like this guy talked earlier, like what do I need to know going into court? You need to know case law, the civil rules, local and state, and then you need to know the paperwork. Those are the 4 categories of stuff you need to know. And then he asked, what should I bring to court? Well, all the evidence possible that helps you. The science, the data, things that tug on a judge's heartstrings, and every piece of evidence you have that makes you look like a good parent and the other person look bad. That's the short of that. So I'd have a video on that, a video on defending against restraining orders, a video on doing contempt, a video on defending contempt, a video on trial. Those would definitely be starters. The trial video, I started doing a trial video and I was like 2.5 hours in and I stopped and I never got around to finishing it. I pretty much was covering everything in trial, and then I just got distracted, and then I haven't gotten back because it took me forever the evidence rule video is an hour and 20 minutes. It took me like a couple weeks to put that together. I don't have a staff or video editors or anything like that. That's why I do just TikTok videos and repost them later or do a live, because it's just easier and convenient. So, yeah. Okay, that looks like all the questions. I've been on here almost 3 hours, so hopefully you guys got something out of this. And the gay stalker, faggot, bitch, thong wearing, feminine, gay boy Dex is back harassing everybody because he got a division of child support administrative order dismissed from an unconstitutional court that shouldn't even exist. Yippee-ki-yay, bitch. We bow down and worship you because you went in there and 5 million legal doctrines that nobody gives a shit about, and all you have to do is go into administrative court. Like I said before, I'll save you $6,200 of talking to child support as fraud or whatever other faggot in the gay orgy group that Dex is a part of. All you do is just go into the administrative division of child support and say, look, you're not a real judge. You weren't voted in this constitutional republic. You don't have any legal authority over me. I object to this proceeding. We can go to family court and deal with this. Or maybe leave out that line about family court and your case gets dismissed. If the mom really wants child support, she'll end up going to family court anyway. But you need to go get custody of your kid. And if you get custody of your kid, you don't have to pay child support. She pays you child support. But faggots like Dex don't even think about that. Faggots like Lionel from Child Support is Fraud, who lies to people and deceives them. He tells some partial truth. But you know, like I said before, you tell partial truths and you tell a couple little lies in a, you could be so, that little lie is enough to have people way off that you are now in a cult. And there's all these occultic groups like the Moors, which are a bunch of bitch-ass treasonous traitor faggots because they want to change the system, just like the Father's Rights Movement gay boys like Mark Ludwig. They want to change the system and their ego is caught up with their feminine emotions. We want to win our fight with the entire system. That ain't happening in your lifetime, bitch. Why don't you just help go get... I had a guy from Maryland who said, oh, the Moors told me this and that. And he was great. We had a consult. He was dropping all this knowledge. He knew Troxel versus Granville. He knew Stanley versus Illinois. He knew stuff off the top of his head. You know, the fundamental fairness doctrine, all these rights. And the jurors, he said he had seen his kids in a year and a half. And I said, did you do this, that, and that? No, I didn't. I learned this from year one. Did you do this and that? Nope. The Moors just told me to go in and object and then keep silent. And they railroaded me. And my kids have been in Pennsylvania for 2.5 years or 2 years. And he hadn't seen them in a year and a half. And then the Moors told him, well, it looks like you're just going to have to be a casualty. You're probably not going to see your kids for 2 or 3 years. You need to take one for the team and enjoy the fight and fight for the cause. You subhuman asshole, sociopath, child trafficking, child abusing pieces of shit. You're a bunch of demonic faggots that say, take one for the team and your kids will suffer without a father. Bitch ass faggot bitches. And Dex sounds like one of those Moors guys, or he sounds like the Child Support is Fraud guy. I'm a sovereign nation. I'm this and that, yakety yak. I've seen people walk into criminal court when I was a clerk at the courthouse in an orange jumpsuit say, I'm a sovereign nation. You have no rights over me. And quote the same stuff that Dax said in some way or fashion. And they say, okay, thanks for your argument. Now go back to your cell. That's where I'm different. I don't care about the legal mumbo jumbo. I don't care about the jerking off you do worshiping yourself because you learned some knowledge. Knowledge puffs up. Knowledge puffs you up and makes you stuck up and think you're smarter than you are. Nobody cares if somebody talks about how to jab and counterpunch and do a hook and do a combination and they know the theory of it and they never worked out and they walk into a ring with Mike Tyson and they say, Mike, that's the wrong form to use, and he knocks them the fuck out. All of their knowledge doesn't mean shit. That's the faggotry of Dax. He's like somebody stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson and talking about tactical moves and the science behind it, and this is the right way to move. And Mike Tyson has a flaw, but he's been practicing in that flawed manner. There's a lot of people in the NBA. They don't have a perfectly formed jump shot that goes like this. They have Larry Bird had it way back here. Jamal Wilkes had it way back here. Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, right off the forehead real quick. He blocks one eye, but he practiced that shot a billion times. And so he's one of the purest jump shooters of all time. It doesn't matter that you technically got the words right, you arrogant prick dickhead who is still living in middle school and wants to be popular because you know some shit. We're trying to get people their kids. So anyway, I'm going to roll with that. See if I can get this faggot blocked now. Damn it, I can't block him, but I can remove him. Oh, there we go. Okay, so hopefully that gay bitch is gone. Okay, so those of you guys who are in the fight and hanging in the fight, keep fighting the good fight and hang in there. It's the marathon. It's the war of attrition. So thanks for coming on to watch.